Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again,
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome one and all to a Sunday evening edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular, of course.
hello.
Here we are. Let's go Yankees. Repping the organization tonight. World Series bound for the first time in 15 years. I'm especially grateful for baseball this postseason, especially since my Yankees made it to the World Series, because it really is a welcome distraction, 2.5 to 3 hours a night from the horrors of the world and the presidential election of doom. It's nice to have that distraction. That's the purpose it serves. The bread and the circuses.
That's why the factory owners started sponsoring baseball.
Yeah, bread and circuses, and so
Keep them busy.
That's it. So yeah.
Yes, you can have your baseball.
That's
right. Watch your baseball.
Yeah. Well, it's serving its purpose for me.
On my train line, Yankee Day is like the bane of my fucking existence, man. When they have a game and you got to be on the train with those fucking Yankee fans, with their fucking Yankee jerseys, with their fucking chants. Oh my God, I want to put my head through the fucking turnstile, man.
Yeah.
Let's go, Yankees. Oh my God, I hate those fucking people. Ugh.
Well, you're going to have to endure it 3 or 4 more times. I'm not sure what it is.
Well,
I don't know who has home
it's
field.
still playoffs right now. What is it?
Yeah, well, it's the World Series. We're either playing the Mets or the Dodgers. That's it. It's going to be a great series either way. Either Yankees Mets, either a Subway Series, or
the Yankees are in the World Series.
Yeah, they made it. Or it's going to be the Dodgers, which Yankees Dodgers. That's another
but they're not going to
rivalry.
be playing here, so I'm not going to.
No, they're going to be playing 3 games, 3 or 4. It depends on how long the series goes. I forget which league has home field advantage. But either, they'll probably play a couple games at home. So there'll be 2 more home games left.
That's gonna be.
So that's
worse.
it. Yep.
It's gonna be.
That's
worse.
it.
You see, yeah. You have to remember, insofar as I have any sentiments about this, the Mets, as our sometime guest James Nagy often pointed out in our youth, they inherited the karma of the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Right.
They were created for people who were never going to root for the Yankees because they had been Dodgers fans.
Right.
So I grew up a mile from Shea Stadium. So that that defines my perspective on the Yankees forever. But my overall perspective is I was sitting there watching the Mets lose, choke the way that they do one day when I was about, 7, 8. And I thought to myself, why am I upset? I have no control over this. And I never watched sports again.
Yeah, there you go. That was it. That's it. That'll do it. All right, I wanted to wear this for my Yankees bit at the beginning, but it's making my hair sweat, so I'm going to take it off for now for the rest of the show. Just had to rep the team. Virtuoso, why don't you call in during the Q&A? We'll talk more Yankee baseball. We'll do a little World Series preview.
Oh no. This is like my nightmare.
Yeah. Hey, folks, on a more serious note, our friend Pete Monahan, who shows up in the chat quite often, he super chats us quite often. For those who have been following his chats. He just had surgery to remove a tumor in his throat, very serious surgery for a very serious and advanced cancer. And according to his family members who are managing his social media, the surgery went well. He is recovering, and the prognosis for his recovery is good. So that's all good news on that front. But he is sidelined for quite a bit. Obviously, it was a very serious surgery for a very serious and advanced disease. And so we wanted to make a little e-card for Pete and invite our dissidents to sign it before we send it to him. So if you go to dodissidents.com/Gator Pete, you can send him some well wishes, a little note. There's a way to add like funds for a gift card or something like that attached to the greeting card. So you can, get him a DoorDash greeting card or something like that to go with your sentiments if you wish. But we do want to send this out to him by midweek, by Wednesday. So we're going to plug it tonight and Tuesday. But we do want to get this to him definitely by midweek at the latest. So if you can go over to dodissidents.com/Gator Pete and just sign the card, write a sentence or two, wish him well. I'm sure that would lift him up. He's a great fan of the show, and we're great fans of Peter. And so please do that if you can. We're looking to send that out by Wednesday. All right. So you want to talk about your yoga meltdown, or do you want to start the show?
Yeah, I have. So I went to yoga. I haven't gone in a couple of years because I hurt my joints. I've gradually been coming back. First, I started the swimming. That went okay. Then I brought back biking. That's gone okay. Then I brought back weight training and the elliptical. That's gone okay. So finally, the thing I thought would be most likely to mess up your joints if you're not ready, I brought that back last, yoga. So I figure YMCA, it's probably like a little light hatha for the old ladies, whatever. Right. That's a good way to work myself back in. Basically, the DJ from the Warriors was the teacher. All right, boppers, get into your downward dog, and you're going to hold it for 20 minutes. Yeah. She put me in traction, man. It was one of those things where this is the problem with men, and this is why men die younger than women. One of the reasons that men usually, on average, die before women. Because a woman would be like, oh, this isn't what I signed up for. I'm out of here. Right. As a man, you're just not going to do it. You're like, yeah, they could wind up taking me out of here in an ambulance, but yeah. I'm a man. I'm not going to quit. I'm doing the whole thing.
It's hard. Yoga can be very intense. It can be really intense
if you do it the way she was doing. Yeah. She was doing it almost like Kundalini, where you're holding a lot of stress positions for long periods of time.
Right.
Yeah. I thought I was going to get more hatha flow kind of thing.
Right. No, more than you bargained for.
Yes.
Well, you made it. We're all here. It's Sunday.
Still here.
Still here. Folks, we had some very serious breaking news today from a Pennsylvania McDonald's. The once and future ruler of the free world was there showing Kamala Harris up, working the fry machine. Here is.
Ready. Indy is here. This is Indy. She has an apron for you.
And good job on the first day.
I think I should take off my jacket? I think so. The press wants to see this. Oh, he's a wealthy guy. He owns a lot of McDonald's. That's great. Thank you. Okay. Oh, I think it's good. You want to do it? Yeah.
Hey, it looks great. What's your favorite thing to order? The white shirt and the red tie really
like it
looks
all.
good.
I like every ounce of it, everything.
Okay. I'm sorry. Very often, something that people will say is, if you hadn't been born into that family, you'd be working at McDonald's. You tell me he doesn't look like a McDonald's manager.
He looks like the McDonald's founder. He looks like he is McDonald. He looks like it was designed after him. His face and his skin are like match the color scheme of the restaurant.
It does.
Like bright colors, primary colors.
Right. It's like he's worked there so long that he's come to resemble the product.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. He's turning into a
this
French fry.
This is Donald. I'm the manager here. You having a good time, folks? Yeah,
of course.
No, he fits right in. This is, if Donald Trump had not been born into all that money, this is what you'd see when you walk in McDonald's.
Absolutely.
Can I help you? You want fries with that?
So I do like the French fries while I'll be working. I listened to Kamala. She said it was so hot. It was so hot. It was such a tough job. But John, you have a man that's been doing it for many years with the French fries, right?
I want to learn everything.
I'm going to learn how to do it right now. Thank you.
Welcome here.
We gotta hit that timer, bring that one up. I'm gonna take care of these.
Okay.
Look at it. He looks right at home. He really does. Look at that.
He's in heaven.
He's in heaven.
Right there.
I don't know if this is the best marketing for the MAHA, the Make America Healthy Again contingent of his base.
Probably not.
Probably not. They should have had RFK taking the orders. All right, I'll pull her out window one. $13.49.
No. This isn't the intercom. This is my voice.
No, it's not. I'm coming through just fine, believe me. Barbecue or honey mustard. Yeah.
Then we can put that right far right, hang it right up there.
Yeah.
And then you want to do the salt over here?
Yeah.
I did these ones already. They're good. You just got to do that one right there. So grab that.
Let me give him extra salt.
No,
not extra salt. Not plenty salty.
Yep, good.
There you go.
Right there.
Good job.
And then we're going to grab the fry scoop right here.
Right.
Put it into there and just give them a twirl that way.
They say it's bad for your blood pressure, but I had my physical. My blood pressure is perfect. They said they never saw blood pressure like that. It was the best blood pressure ever.
Never touches the human hand. Nice and full.
Never touches the human hand.
Well, supposedly he's a germaphobe.
Yes, well, that's why it says that. All right, that was very good. We need you to do it again, just faster and for less pay.
Yeah.
Faster and for a lower hourly wage. That's my only two notes.
I must say, as somebody who, on occasion, in the course of my job, have to go up to people who are famous and interact with them, and it can be very nerve-wracking. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Depends on who it is. These kids are very poised.
Oh yeah,
like they're just like, yeah. And so you put the salt, like they're not, don't seem
the kid was good.
starstruck. They're just like, yeah,
yep.
Yeah.
They're in their element,
like any trainee.
Yeah, exactly. Just like anyone else. They were very poised. All right, now this is my favorite part. Now this guy pulling up to the car, he looks very familiar to our most loyal dissident viewers.
I wouldn't mind this job. I like this job. I think I might come back and do it again.
Thank you.
Look at that.
Mr.
Look at that. How are you?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Nice to see you.
You made it possible for ordinary people like us to meet you.
You're not ordinary.
I mean, thank you so much
You
for
are not
everything you
ordinary.
do.
I can see.
We pray for you, and you are the type of person we want to be the president.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
So nice. Thank you very much. Yeah, I took a bullet. That's right.
Thank you, Mr. President.
When you think about it, I guess that's right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
When you think about it, I guess that's right. He looks just
When
like
you
Sammy,
think about
our
it,
patron
yes,
caller.
that's right.
And he really does look like Sammy. I'm not just saying it because
Yeah.
he's Indian and Sammy's Indian. We met Sammy at our live show, and he actually does look very much like Sammy. Same joyful, happy-go-lucky personality, too.
How do we know? Maybe it's Sammy.
Maybe it is. Maybe it is.
is.
Same
We gotta ask
personality,
him.
too. Very
Sammy, if you're
happy-go-lucky.
watching, call in later. We want to ask you.
Yeah.
There's you in the clip.
So there's Trump putting it in a shift at McDonald's. Now, we're going to cover maybe on Tuesday some of the joyless, humorless lib takes on this. How much you want to bet there's at least one major headline about this from a lib outlet? Do you want lies with that? I guarantee you that there's at least one headline. Do you want lies with that?
That's a pretty good prediction, man.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't think you can do this if you live in a state where gambling's illegal. You should move to Vegas because bookies will take that bet.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a good bet that there will be at least one.
I think that's a pretty good bet.
Yeah.
And you could get sick odds on a bet like that.
Yeah. And maybe it's on Huffington Post right now. That seems like a headline they would run. HuffPost.com. Let's see. What's there? No. Fascist
And
fright. Trump doubles down on enemy within threat. So no.
yeah,
Not
there you
yet.
go.
Not yet. Give it a day.
Yeah, no. And he also there's a clip of this where he's saying that Kamala, and I guess this was part of the whole point of doing this. They're denying that Kamala ever worked at McDonald's, which she has literally cribbed a story from MLK and claimed it as her own. So it is entirely plausible that she lied about having worked at McDonald's.
Well, when did she say she worked at McDonald's? How old was she? In college?
I guess when she was in high school.
Or high school.
I'm assuming high school.
So would that be on
that's
her
my
parents'
assumption.
tax returns? Because you don't pay. Do you pay taxes if you're 15 or 16? I forget how that works.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to file a return. They're saying, especially because she would have been in Canada then, right? Wasn't she? Aren't those her Canada years?
I don't know.
She was in Canada for a long time. I think those were the years. I think when she was in high school.
Interesting.
So they would definitely have some record with the healthcare.
Yeah, there's got to be a record of it somewhere.
They're saying there's no proof that she worked at McDonald's, and they're saying that proves she made it up. That is completely to form. I'm not saying she did, but is she someone who would totally make that up? Yes, she is. And then she said on a talk show that Emhoff, when he wasn't, before he was molesting nannies, actually won Employee of the Month at McDonald's. She makes a big point of that. That he earned everything he had. She says they have a photo of him as Employee of the Month. So maybe he did. But yeah, brown noser.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But would she totally make that up? Yes, she would. Oh, by the way, since we're talking about McDonald's, I had Jake check this out. So there's a channel I like to watch, Evil Food Supply. They were the ones who made me never want to touch oat milk. They just dropped a video about McDonald's fries. It's going to make you never want those fries.
Wow. Yeah, no, it was a good campaign. See, this is the kind of thing that's a little off the beaten path, a little quirky, a little weird, but in a good way, in an endearing way, in a nice way. Normal people like this. They drive up to the drive-thru window. It's Donald Trump working the fry machine. See, that's the good kind of off message, not the they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats.
Right,
you know, I really think when you look back at the dog and cats
that's what they call retail politics. They call
that's retail politics. I think the dog and cats moment was probably a real turning point in this campaign, much in the same way that the Khan family feud was a big turning point in the 2016 campaign. In that campaign around mid-August, right after the Democratic convention, Donald Trump got baited into a feud with the Gold Star family and plummeted in the polls. And that's when clearly the campaign huddled and said, we have to make a big change. They got rid of Paul Manafort. They brought in Steve Bannon. They righted the ship. They ran a pretty flawless campaign down the home stretch, and they ended up eking out a win. It seems like this is a more subtle example, but I think that dogs and cats moment was a similar type of turning point where they're like, okay, if we keep generating insane headline after insane headline, we're going to blow this. We have to tighten up. And it seems like they have. And for the last month, they haven't said or done anything crazy to turn headlines against them. And so this is the right kind of diversion as opposed to that. Yeah.
They might have felt they can't compete with Diddy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe that's felt, it. Well, the whole point is to suck up the media oxygen. How are we going to compete with the 200 bottles of lube? There's nothing we're going to say that's going to compete with that. We might as well just play it straight down the middle, boys.
Yeah. And straight down the middle it was always the case that if they didn't fumble the ball, they could run out the clock and probably win the election. And they seem to have perhaps learned that lesson just in the nick of time. Too soon to tell, but they've definitely been more disciplined in the past month.
And they have the benefit of running against a hologram.
Right.
Yeah, they're running against somebody who, on her own steam, was not able to make it to Iowa. A terrible candidate, a candidate nobody voted for, nobody picked, who's just running on vibes, who falls apart in interviews. So really, a lot of people have said, well, the libs say, it's Kamala's election to lose. And actually, Nate Silver dropped an article that was decent today. I don't know if you looked at it, laying out 24 points for why Trump could win. That although he throws a little catnip to the libs, in his characterizations of Trump. It was pretty on. It was pretty on. He points out the electoral college advantage that the Republicans have, which they never talk about when they talk about national polling.
Right.
You could very well have another election where she wins the popular vote, but that doesn't mean that you're going to win the election. And the media, every election cycle, they talk about it as if the national polling is the significant polling. And then people are always surprised when the candidate loses.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think in this, it's becoming more likely that, you split popular vote goes one way, electoral college vote goes the other way in the Republicans' favor. I think a big part of that is because a lot of the larger population states are not swing states. California, right. New York, Texas, Florida, 2 of those are blue, 2 of those are red. Those are the largest population states, so they influence the popular vote, but they have really a baked-in influence on the electoral college that is sort of part of the math before the competition even starts. And so, you have lower population states like Nevada, Arizona, relatively lower population, maybe even New Hampshire affecting the outcome. So I think that explains that. But yeah, no, it is, it's getting interesting down the stretch for sure. All right, we're going to take some Rumble Rants and Super Chats. We got Jake in the booth tonight. Round of applause for Jake. Nice crowd filing in here. 1,500 strong in the YouTube chat, 1,100 strong on the Rumble chat. We do have one final segment of the night, which is going to be on Rumble. We have a theater artist named Kevin Augustine, a friend of Russell's here, who has a show coming up that our friend Jimmy Dore is going to speak at by video screen. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that show and some other things before the Q&A over on the Rumble side. So make sure to join us on Rumble toward the tail end of the show for that. Plus, it is Sunday night, which means patrons, paid Substackers, and paid local members get to call in and ask us some questions and tell us what's on their mind. Abiding71, thanks for the $1. LARPers litigating Butch's Uyghur position 2 weeks before election is as useful as sending Mayo Pete to stump for you. Shots fired. We'll talk about that in a few minutes.
Kill Bill. It's as useful as an asshole right here.
Right here. Let's see here. Facebook should delete the memories feature. Nobody will want to be reminded they defiled themselves supporting a genocide for a losing candidate. Good point, Abiding. Thank you for that. Hillary Hinton. How long until the World Series is just lions eating people asking for a friend? There you go. There's some Roman circuses for you. Thank you. 30 milligrams, $65. My dad got a picture with Jill Stein on Friday when she was in Minnesota. Lucky bastard. Thank you, 30 milligrams. Appreciate that very much. Kinky became a member over on YouTube. Thank you, Kinky. Appreciate that. JM, thanks for the $2 and the thumbs up. Appreciate that. Michael Ewan, thanks for being a member for 3 months, says, I'll probably vote Stein, but do you have a message for those that are politically engaged but entirely disenchanted and thinking about not voting? I get it. We were there just a couple weeks ago. We're voting for Jill Stein.
I was never there. I was writing in Dave Chappelle.
That's right. Russell was going to write in Dave Chappelle. We're voting for Jill Stein and advising that people do the same in solidarity with the abandoned Harris, Muslim, and Arab voters who are boycotting the Biden ticket and who are asking people to join their protest vote for Jill Stein. They just made the endorsement. We are backing them on that. That is the extent to which we support the Greens. So that we're not here to evangelize the gospel of the Green Party or Jill Stein. We never were. We've been pretty clear about that the whole time. But for them, we do advise people go out and vote for it. Pete Monahan, hey, you're here. I thought you were still in the hospital, my friend. Well, it's great to see you super chatting us. I don't know why you're giving us that much money. $50 is a lot. You got to recover, my friend. But let's get a cowbell for Pete's. In recovery, doing very good. Glad to be back. That's wonderful. Surgery was very long, 9 hours. Prognosis is very good. I will still be able to eat and walk. Talking wine be on how much radiation, depend on how, talking will depend, I'm assuming. Depend on how much radiation I have to go through. Sent you an email that's more defined. Glad to be back. Well, we were going to surprise you with that greeting card, Peter, but I guess you know about it. So we'll be sending it to you anyway. So keep an eye out for that. Much love to you from the dissidents. Round of applause, hearts in the chat for Peter. And thank you for that generous donation.
Keep going, man.
Absolutely. And that's great that you have a great prognosis, because I remember when you emailed me, it wasn't looking as good, but now they're saying you'll be able to eat and walk. Talking will depend on radiation. Well, yeah, because I saw the picture of the scar on your neck. I was expecting to see, not to get too graphic and morbid, but sometimes they got to cut out a huge chunk of your neck and you can't eat anymore. But it seemed to me like that wasn't going to be the case. So that's great to hear, and best to you always. Kyler Bleeker, thanks for the $10. Jimmy Dore called out Jill Stein for recommending IDF-trained Clintonite smear merchant Peter Dow to Cornell's campaign, which she has never fully addressed. Did she ask you guys not to ask about that? No, she didn't ask us anything. We didn't get into that for two reasons. One, we had a strict 45 minutes. And number two, as we'll get into in this next segment, I'm not terribly interested in litigating Jill Stein or the Greens or Butch Ware. Like, we're backing them because people who have endured literal hell on earth for the past year in Gaza, their family members over here are asking us to back them. So we're doing it for them. That's that. That's that. I'm not terribly concerned. If I were invested in the Greens as a long-term vehicle for the movement we're trying to build here, then I'd be more interested in those. I'm not. In 3 weeks, we're not going to hear from the Greens. We're not going to hear from Butch Ware ever again past November 5th. It's not going to be a big deal.
That's it. That's why even in these circumstances, you've never heard us say go donate,
right?
Go volunteer, go get involved. We've never said that. The abandoned Harris endorsement made us say, you know what, in solidarity with these people who are suffering this way, we are going to back their play.
Exactly.
And also on a personal level, I think I'm speaking for both of us here. Correct me if I'm wrong. I trust Shama. She's a winner. It's a very rare thing among independents. She's an actual winner. And I get what she's doing. And I always thought there was merit to her vision. But after this election, we're really going to have a very serious conversation about how, as a left movement, we focus on certain priorities and come together, so that if the Green Party wanted to be a part of a coalition like that, that's fine. Will the Green Party be at the forefront of something like that? I don't see how that would happen, or why that would happen.
Exactly.
Shama is holding her conference in February. We both plan on being there, and I have high hopes for that.
Yeah, as do I. Vicky Blair, thanks for the $10. Anytime someone talks about the World Series, I think of the Eddie Izzard joke, the World Series. I think America won this year, right? They do quite well in that World Series, I think. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on. Well, we got another comedy-oriented piece to start the night, starting out with a good deal of comedy. The Al Smith dinner, of course. So, Russell, do you want to set this up?
Yes. All right. So the Al Smith dinner is kind of a throwback to the old days of Tammany Hall, when these Irish Catholics really kind of ran the Democratic Party, certainly here in New York. Hell's Kitchen was the last redoubt of that old Tammany Hall faction. That whole neighborhood was run by the McManus family, which was very tied to the old Irish mob as well. Maybe since the Weird New York tour sales are going so well, I'll bring back my Irish mob tour for St. Patrick's Day.
There you go.
For St. Patty's Day. And we'll bring all that back. So Kamala, in her wisdom, decided not to show up to this event. I think we can safely assume that her handlers felt there was no upside to putting her on a dais with Trump.
Right.
In an uncontrolled environment with no teleprompters. Apparently, they told them there were going to be no teleprompters. Trump made quite a lot of the fact that Jim Gaffigan got to use one. He was,
yes.
He mentioned it maybe 6 times. Yeah, look at you. I guess you're more important than me. You got a teleprompter. They told me no teleprompters. I wish I had known. So they especially presumably they told Harris's people the same thing, and they said absolutely fucking not. Are we putting Kamala Harris in a roast situation with Donald Trump and no teleprompter. So presumably that's why she didn't go, but it was not a good look. Hey man, Trump, as you would expect, made hay of it. All right, so where is that video?
Here we go. So we're going to start out with Jim Gaffigan. He got some good digs in here.
The theme again is let them eat cake. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't address the elephant in the room.
All right, so let's start that from the
As you
beginning. All right, so his funniest stuff was pretty much what's here. He made a lot of very funny class references. In a lot of respects, watching this played like the Gridiron Dinner used to, the Washington Press Club dinner, before they got the shit scared out of them by Michelle Wolf and decided they're never letting anyone go up there and call out the elephant in the room again. They were only going to get the most safe, tame comedians possible. He made a lot of very funny kind of jokes about class and the nature of the event that are funny, but they're funny because they're true, which kind of make you angry as you watch these people laugh. Oh, yes, we run the world. The poors don't get in here. Okay.
As you can see how we're dressed, the theme again is let them eat cake. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't address the elephant in the room. You know, you're all thinking about it. Let me just cut to the point and point out who's not here. And of course, I'm talking about the middle class. That filthy group of people. Right, Chuck? Do you know what I'm talking about? Of course, Joe Biden was our second Catholic president, right? After JFK. President Biden couldn't be here tonight. The DNC made sure of that. 22% of Americans identify as Catholic. Catholics will be a key demographic in every battleground state. I'm sorry, why is Vice President Harris not here? I mean, consider this. This is a room full of Catholics and Jews in New York City. This is a layup for the Democratic nominee. You know, looking at this impressive dais of attendees up here, I never know how to address you people. Do you prefer, global elite or coastal elite? Quick question, Mayor Bloomberg. When you buy an election, do you put it on a credit card so you can get the points? Right? If Vice President Harris wins this election, not only would she be the first female president, a black woman would occupy the White House, a former Trump resident. Obviously, you wouldn't be renting to her. I mean, that would never happen anyway. Maybe if Doug did the signing. Democrats have been telling us Trump's re-election is a threat to democracy. In fact, they were so concerned of this threat, they staged a coup, ousted their democratically elected incumbent, and installed Kamala Harris. In other words, all her dreams have come true. Really? It really makes you consider the power of prayer, right, Cardinal? Sometimes prayers take 3.5 years and a George Clooney op-ed.
So his set was not great overall. Like a lot of it, he was not a Colbert in his prime at the White House Correspondents' Dinner with Bush, but he had some very good moments, and they're pretty much all there. That was some pretty good stuff, referring to the history of the Trump organization and their lawsuits on rental discrimination. Trump, I will say, I think he felt like the room was friendly. So he took that in a way that he might not in a more libby room. Like Gaffigan's formulation, it's a room full of Jews and Catholics. It should be a layup for the Democratic nominee. Maybe at one time. I don't think that's really true at this point. You have a lot of Jewish Zionists who have gone to Trump because his rhetoric, because he doesn't even rhetorically feel a need to concede any humanity to the Palestinians. He's actually used it as a slur. So a lot of them are starting to gravitate to him. And, man, a lot of working class kind of Catholics, man, a very working class sensibility. I've always known a lot of Republican Catholics, even before the Fox News post-Reagan penetration into that community.
Sure. Well, in the midterms, actually, Catholics voted Republican, more Republican than Democrat. Actually, it was quite close.
That doesn't surprise me.
But yeah, they actually, voted red as a percentage. It was like low 50s. Wasn't a big margin, but Catholics, like Gaffigan references, traditionally, historically, a Democratic demo, not quite so much anymore. Yeah, no, I mean, he's not a particularly political comic. Like Colbert has been a political comic his whole life, and those were the days when he was actually good. Right. And so
yes.
That would be tough to top.
That's why I distinguish in his prime.
In his prime, absolutely.
Like that whole set was great.
Of course. Well, I
Same
also think
with Michelle Wolf. Her whole set was great.
Her whole set was good too. Yeah, I think Trump took this better than he did at like the Correspondents' Dinner when Obama ragged on him, because Trump, he was expecting it. I mean, he is the nominee, so he knew he's going to get something, right? So he was better sport about it.
I also think, and I watched the whole thing, and I think he'd be right about this. The room was pretty fucking friendly. The room was pretty friendly. Yeah. Like, that did not feel like a lib Democrat room. Right. Felt like a room that at least half favored him, if not more.
I'd say that's probably true. All right, let's go on to Kamala Harris's. We're gonna do Kamala's bit, right? All right. Well, so this will be a separate clip, so we could set this up separately. Let me just take one or two Rumble rants here. Adolphus Schickelgruber. People are always so harsh on Darryl Cooper, but I think he's just misunderstood. I think you should give him another chance. Maybe bring him on to debate. Thank you. Ryan Club, we can't get in touch with him. He blocked us, so I don't know if that was a joke or not. But if it wasn't,
I think it was a joke.
He cut us off.
Misunderstood.
I figured that. Yeah. Ryan Clark, if there's a way to reorganize that Get Well card, you might want to consider it. So many of us posted at once, they overlapped. What do you mean? What do you mean? They should just sort the things.
I guess it crashed or something.
Oh, maybe it crashed.
Do we have the power to crash?
Can we crash a site? Are there that many dissidents? Well, here we'll put up the link throughout the show here while I'm doing this here. Where is it? DoDissidents.com/GatorPete. So take a screenshot of that, write it down so you have it. So try again if it crashed on you. There we go. All right. Cool. All right, let's keep going here. All right, so next is Kamala's bit.
Okay, so this was a terrible idea. She should have...
Hold on, we got to set this up. Don't forget, it's a new clip, so we got to let people know what we're talking about.
Okay, so in spite of Kamala Harris being the first candidate not to show up to the Al Smith dinner since Walter Mondale, Trump had some fun with that in his monologue. Yeah, so you saw that went with him. He lost 49 states.
Right.
So she is the first one since Mondale not to do it. Okay, if you were going to send in a video, I don't know if you should have done that at all. Just play it straight, man. Just play it straight. Making jokes or taking shots at Trump is just going to look cowardly because you didn't have the balls to say it in the room.
Right.
So how do you think a shot you take by videotape is going to play in the room where Trump actually showed up? That's one. Two, who the fuck remembers Molly Shannon's Mary Catherine Gallagher character at this point who's under 40? Who the hell even remembers that? Yeah, it was a popular character. It was never iconic. Like, sure. You could bring out the Blues Brothers today and it would be a thing. It's iconic. It's iconic to the culture. This shit made a movie, didn't go anywhere. Nobody remembers it anymore. The idea that you would do a bunch of in-jokes with Molly Shannon as that character and send it into this dinner that you didn't show up to with a couple of cracks about Trump. Wow. Wow. That was it was a lot of people are saying that was the most cringe 5 minutes of their life. It was terrible. All right, so let's take a look at it. It's really awful.
And distinguished guests, Your Eminence, and distinguished guests, the Al Smith dinner provides a rare opportunity to set aside partisanship.
Cool. Oh, sorry.
Hey, what's going on? Who was that?
Oh, sorry, Mary Catherine Elliott. Mary Catherine, it's so nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you, Mary Catherine. Right now I'm trying to record my speech for tonight's dinner.
Oh, yeah, I know. I just want to say that I'm Catholic, and tonight is one of the biggest dinners next to the Last Supper.
It is a very important dinner, and it's an important tradition that I'm so proud to be a part of.
Sometimes when I get nervous, I stick my fingers under my arms and I simmer them like that. But that's gross.
So tell me something. I'm giving a speech. Do you have some thoughts about what I might say tonight?
My feelings about what you should say tonight would be best expressed in a monologue from one of my favorite made-for-TV series.
Okay, let's hear it.
Don't you see, man? We need a woman to represent us. A woman brings more heart, more compassion. And think how smart she must be to become a top contender in a field dominated by men. It's time for a woman, bro. And with this woman, we can fly.
What series was that from?
Oh, that's from House of Dragons, now streaming on HBO Max.
Is there anything that you think that maybe I shouldn't bring up tonight?
Well, don't lie. Thou shalt not bear false witness to thy neighbor.
Indeed, especially thy neighbor's election results.
Just so you know, there will be a fact checker there tonight.
Oh, that's great. Who?
Jesus. And maybe don't say anything negative about Catholics.
I would never do that, no matter where I was. That would be like criticizing Detroit in Detroit.
Does it bother you that
sick
Trump guy
burn.
insults you all the time? Because it really bothers my friends and me.
Oh, Mary Catherine, it's very important to always remember you should never let anyone tell you who you are. You tell them who you are.
Haters gonna hate, hate, hate. Shake it off.
Shake it off.
Shake it off.
Shake it off. Good for you, Mary Catherine.
Oh, yeah, okay. And also remember one more thing. Don't worry if you make a mistake, 'cause Catholic people are very forgiving. Yeah, and also, one last thing I want to tell you, don't forget to say, superstar!
Thank you, Mary Catherine.
Thank you,
Remember
Kamala.
that?
Thank you.
Remember she used to say superstar? I think they made a movie called Superstar. Remember that? Yeah, so they're appealing to the member berries of the 70 to dead audience for MSNBC there.
Yeah, so folks,
I don't
this
know
is
who
what,
else would have appreciated that.
This is what we call in the podcasting business anti-content.
Yeah.
Anti-content, where we show you something so bad and so unappealing and so unfunny and so entertaining, and then we comment on how bored and off-put we were by that, and we spin that into content. It's anti-content. That's what this is.
Anti-content. That's what we have graphs. We'll show them on the intermission.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Little inside baseball there. Yes. We're gonna do some anti-content tonight.
No, and then you sent me that thing, and I didn't even understand what the guy was talking about because I hadn't seen this. But who was that? He was right. Like, the mind of people working on her campaign who thought that was funny, who thought that would appeal to somebody, who thought that was a good idea. Like, you're talking about a character that was never, even when it was a thing, really a thing.
No, like I vaguely remember something like that because I'm like the age demo where like anybody younger than me would have no idea what that is. And then people older than me might have some idea what that is. I have a very vague image in my head of that character. Beyond that, I know really nothing about it at all. Such an obscure, weird reference. And the thing is, it's a reasonable investment of time and resources. I mean, I'm sure Molly Shannon did that on the arm. I don't think she charged him.
Yeah.
But it's still, you got to get her there. You got to get her in costume. You got to write it. Like, it's still a reasonable investment of resources for what? For what? To be cringier than you would be if you're just shown up?
If you're just shown up. And again, taking shots at Trump when you didn't have the balls to do it in the room.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Is a terrible look.
Yeah.
That's a terrible look. And then to do the woe is me girl boss thing. Me and my friends don't like that Trump says bad things about you. Again, when you don't have the courage to be in that room to play this victim, as if you're implying that's why you're not in the room, because the mean man's going to beat up on you. Well, that really fills people with confidence in making you the first woman commander in chief, that you can't stand in a room with a game show billionaire.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, we really want to put you in a room with Putin now. Yeah, wow, tough lady. The whole speech, the game of the House of the Dragon thing, it was just awful top to bottom. And again, what a stupid idea to have this very obscure SNL character with a failed movie from 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Just awful. She would have been better off not doing anything. If she was going to send in a video, play it straight. It's a charitable event. Yes, and you're doing great work and heal the sick and cure the blind and whatever you people do, resurrect the dead, all that. God bless you. And that's it. Bye.
Yeah. That'd have been better than this. Hey, 2019 in the YouTube chat.
If you notice, Russell Brand, who I guess because we're both named Russell, they put us next to each other.
Yeah.
But he's X'd out.
Of the Truth Teller Justice League. And actually, the Zago brothers DM'd us. They love the idea. They apparently watched that segment. They got a kick out of the idea of making peelable characters so you could take them off as they jump the shark.
That might be coming to a store near you.
Yes, keep an eye out. Jax Page, thanks for the $5. Jax, I think this PR stunt, meaning the Fry thing, is extremely fucking silly, but it seems to have worked. It's all over Twitter today with lots of praise. Yeah, that was the story of the day. We weren't planning on doing that as of this morning, and then it just broke in the afternoon. We're like, all right, I guess we got it. Thanks, Jax. Henry DeShazo, thanks for the $5. It's oddly endearing and not quite happy about it, but at least I can acknowledge it. Yes, it is endearing. Tony B, thanks for the $2. The stink cannons are at the ready 24/7. Henry DeShazo says it's so funny that Russell thinks you have to move to a different state in order to bet on things. He's so precious. Well, I mean, in order to do it legally, right?
In order to do it, I believe, but no, because I wanted to bet on politics. Now you've got the what is it called? But they found a way around it with predict it because the way that they do it, it's not quite like placing a bet exactly. It's like you're buying shares in the prediction. That's how they got around the law. They had to do that because in certain states it's illegal. Yeah, it's not that you can't get around it, but it's not legal to do it here.
Right. Speaking of well-known brands, the U.S. loses its last full-size Kmart, Bridgehampton, New York. The first was in Garden City, Michigan, a suburb of Detroit. Oh, wow, Kmart gone in New York. One of the last ones was actually in New Windsor, where I used to live.
One of the last ones was on Astor Place.
That's right. There was the Kmart on Astor Place. That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
Gone now. I just on my bike ride last week, I noticed it's finally gone.
Wow. Kem and G, true fact, Dr. Shiva was married to Fran Drescher. Make your own joke. Yeah, I knew that.
I did not know.
Were they ever married legally, or were they just like a domestic partnership? Were they ever legally married? I'm not sure, but I know they were a thing. Thank you, Kevin.
You tell me that was not an abusive relationship.
I mean, that guy between him and an Uber driver is an abusive relationship. That fucking guy. Yeah. Be careful about the McDonald's potato allegations. I worked extensively for a main supplier for McDonald's, and some of these internet claims are total bunk. Not that they want to defend them. All right. Well, I mean, seems like there's a lot of preservatives in that food.
Basically, the upshot of what they said was the original McDonald's fries became so famous because they were cooked in like 80% beef tallow, and that gave them like a really unique flavor. But then when they wanted to mass distribute them, make them completely uniform from one end of the country to the other and make it cheaply, they went over to a lot of very unhealthy seed oils. The most damning thing they say in that video is that in order to not have any brown lines, they use a really deadly pesticide to make sure there will be no aphids. Apparently,
why wouldn't there be brown lines in a French fry? That's the thing, Wendy's French fry, they leave the brown lines. That's how you know they treat the product better. Tyson.
Yeah. Somebody here was talking about it. McDonald's uses Burbank rustic potatoes. The pesticide is so toxic they have to air out for weeks before handling. Yeah, that's what they're saying in the video.
Tyson, thanks for the $10. Burger King franchise owner Magic Johnson has come out against Trump tonight. Reasons not cited. Thank you. You know, you kid, but he actually did. He was on the stump for Kamala about a week or so ago. So he has actually endorsed Kamala Harris. Kuznetsky Bassane, thanks for the $9.99. Appreciate that. Fiercely Independent. Why is this doing this to me? All right, we'll have to. I'll have to read that one in a minute. Fiercely Independent. The YouTube studio back end just conked out. It's been doing that every once in a while. All right, we got one more Al Smith dinner segment. Of course, the main event, Donald Trump himself. So should we just play some highlights?
Yeah, Donald Trump. He is at his best when he's off the cuff. So when he was reading from his cue cards, whoever wrote this stuff, it's pretty good material. I don't know who his writer was, but it's pretty funny stuff. I kept in a couple where he went off script, though, because when he's reading off the cue card, like, he doesn't rehearse. He's just, and so also about Mayor Adams. And then as soon as he goes off the cue cards, he comes to life. So it's pretty interesting, but he was good. He had a good night.
I'm Mayor Adams. Good luck with everything. They went after you. They went after you, Mayor. Yeah, boy, I knew that. 9.5 months ago, I said, you know, he just said something about it, about the administration. He's going to be indicted any moment. And guess what happened? But you're going to win. I think you're going to win. I know you're going to win. So good luck. Good luck. I don't like what they do. I don't like what they do. Always it's a rule. You got to go to the dinner. You got to do it. Otherwise, bad things are going to happen to you from up there. You can't do what I just saw on that screen. But my opponent feels like she does not have to be here, which is deeply disrespectful to the event and in particular to our great Catholic community. Very disrespectful. But you do something that's incredible, the Catholic Church, you're helping the poor, educating children, and supporting the vulnerable. But if you really wanted Vice President Harris to accept your invitation, I guess you should have told her the funds were going to bail out the looters and rioters in Minneapolis, and she would have been here, guaranteed she would have been here. Guaranteed. But
okay, so let me set this up a little bit. He really breaks Schumer's balls. And earlier in the monologue, he said, nobody remembers it now. I wrote him his first check. And Schumer was just mortified. But it seemed like it was true that he wrote him his first check when he was running for the Senate. And he
while we're paused here, I mean, if you look at Bloomberg's face, if you look at Schumer's face, I mean, what Gaffigan said is true. These really are the elites, and not everybody in that room was hostile to Trump. In fact, it seemed like a pretty friendly room.
Yes,
but obviously, Bloomberg and Schumer are hostile, and you could see how just annoyed they are, how just in disbelief they are that they still have to deal with this guy. Like, after everything, this guy's still up here. We're still sitting here having to worry about him becoming president again. It's amazing when you think about it.
Well, and this is a classic case of what I've always said about Trump. He is a Rodney Dangerfield snobs versus slobs vehicle.
Right.
And Americans are always going to root for the slob in that scenario.
Right.
And seeing him here at this black tie event spilling the tea on all these people, that is the key of his political success, more than anything else, in my opinion.
I must say I was shocked when I heard that Kamala was skipping the Al Smith dinner. I'd really hoped that she would come because we can't get enough of hearing her beautiful laugh. She laughs like crazy. If Democrats really wanted to have someone not be with us this evening, they would have just sent Joe Biden. You know, he's having second thoughts, you know that, right? He wants to come back. If she does any worse in the polls, they're going to bring him back again, I think. Chuck, he's going to do it. He's the one that got him out. That's the guy. Much more so than Crazy Nancy, I will tell you.
It's good.
Because I know
he's
him.
He's the one that got him out.
Chuck Schumer
I know him.
is here
He did
looking very glum. Doesn't he look glum? It looks glum. But look on the bright side, Chuck, considering how woke your party has become. If Kamala loses, you still have a chance to become the first woman president. There's a group called White Dudes for Harris. Have you seen this? White Dudes for Harris. Anybody know? Are some of you here? White Dudes for Harris? Doesn't sound like it. But I'm not worried about them at all because their wives and their wives' lovers are all voting for me. Every one of those people is voting for me. A major issue in this race is child care, and Kamala has put forward a concept of a plan. A lot of people don't like it. The only piece of advice I would have for her in the event that she wins would be not to let her husband, Doug, anywhere near the nannies. Just keep them away.
I love how he riffs about.
That's a nasty one. That's nasty. I told these idiots that gave me this stuff, that's too tough. Oh, I did. You know, they told me the last time I did this, I was running against Crooked Hillary. Hillary. No, I was running against Crooked Hillary, and I did it. And I thought it was a roast. So I was told it's a roast. And I had the meanest guy you've ever seen write stuff up, and man, was the room angry. Even the Cardinal remembers. I went overboard, don't you agree, Cardinal? It was like terrible. And I knew I was in trouble around midway through because, you know, people are not, even my own side was angry at me. They were saying it's too much. But I did it anyway. I didn't give it. Tradition holds that I'm supposed to tell a few self-deprecating jokes this evening. So here it goes. Nope. I've got nothing. I've got nothing. There's nothing to say. I guess I just don't see the point of taking shots at myself when other people have been shooting at me for a hell of a long time, and they shoot at. But unfortunately, Governor Walz isn't here himself, but don't worry, he'll say that he was. He's going to say he was.
That's a good joke. That's a good, wholesome joke.
I used to think the Democrats were crazy for saying that men have periods.
Here it comes.
But then I met Tim Walz. We have another former New York City mayor with us, frankly, easily the worst in our history. And it's not Michael, that I can tell you. I'm surprised that Bill de Blasio was actually able to make it tonight, to be honest. He was a terrible mayor. I don't give a shit if this is comedy or not. He was a terrible mayor. He did a horrible job. That's not comedy, by the way, that's fact. But unlike the rest of New York, at least Bill doesn't have to worry about the criminals. They owe him big. He let them get away with a lot of stuff. Well, I'd better wrap up because Mayor Adams told me earlier that I needed to make this one very quick, especially the city has reserved this room for a large group of illegal aliens coming in from Texas. That's right, they've reserved many rooms, a lot of rooms, too many rooms.
I like how de Blasio gets the serious ire. Right? Everybody else he fucks with, you know, Bloomberg, Schumer, you know, but no, de Blasio, he's like, that's not comedy, that's fact.
Yeah, so he had a good night. That's Trump at his best.
Oh, yeah.
He was definitely on his game. And this is really what people who adore about him, because you're in a moment where you got these, black tie dinner mummies completely dominating our economy, dominating our culture, where opportunity to achieve the quote unquote American dream is virtually gone. And we've been very clear on this. We don't think Trump's going to do anything about that. Trump was pre-pandemic. Now, would inflation, a lot of what people are experiencing right now, look, this is a decades-long assault on the working class of the country. It didn't start with Joe Biden. It didn't start with Bill Clinton. It didn't start with Barack Obama. it started really with Ronald Reagan. I mean, in earnest, where we are right now. No single president can be blamed for it. Would inflation have been better post-pandemic if Trump had a second term? We don't know that. We don't know that. That's impossible to know. That's very presidential policies have a very limited impact on the economy. Maybe it would have. I'm not saying no, but you can't say yes. That's really an unknowable thing. Did Biden's policies make it worse? Who knows? With economists, you ask 10 different economists, they'll give you 10 different explanations. The bottom line is everything costs a lot more now than they did when Trump was president.
Right.
And wages have not in any way kept up with it. So, of course, objectively, working people, for the most part, were better off under Donald Trump for whatever reason. Doesn't matter what the reason is. They know that when they go to the grocery store now, they're paying double what they were paying when Trump was president. And because of that, they feel, well, you bring him back, you're going to bring that back. Now, of course, you think Donald Trump's going to get elected and the prices are going to go back. They're not.
No.
If you think Donald Trump's going to get elected and your wages are going to go up to compensate, they're not. But having this guy go in these rooms and throw these bombs at these hated elites, you can't, even in a post-Trump world, even with the precedent he set, there is no one like him on the political scene, even from MAGA world. I can't imagine anyone else in the Al Smith dinner handling themselves that way. It is really that Rodney Dangerfield. You drop him into Caddyshack. You drop him in with the blue bloods and the stuff. Hey, how you doing? You know, oh, my wife's got a climp too, but she doesn't show it around everybody. You know, it's that Americans love that story. They love that character. They love that type. They always have, man. You can go back to the 19th century. The first plays that were American plays tended to be about the simple American with his simple clothes versus the sophisticates from the city, the people chasing European fashions and styles. We've always loved types like that, even though Trump is a billionaire. And today, the way the American political system is set up, you'd almost have to be running for president. That's part of the irony. But here, because he came from this rough and tumble world of New York real estate, because he had a father who made him go do rent collections, he has the common touch. And it is very rare in modern politics. Look at that McDonald's thing. How many politicians who are active today could you think of who could pull that off? Who could pull that off without it seeming cringe? Without being like,
exactly,
it's so obvious they don't belong there. They feel awkward there. They're not. This is it. This is Donald Trump at his best. This is, you said it very well. When he got elected, people thought he was a good businessman and a bad politician. It's actually the opposite. He's a very good politician, not a very good businessman if you look at the record.
Yeah, and I think, you know, he plays like he is a fish out of water in Washington, D.C., and he kind of makes that bull in a china shop vibe work for him at these black tie functions, right? Because he does the Rodney Dangerfield thing. He goes in there and he is the slob who's infiltrated the snob event, right? And is just going to be a big turd in the punch bowl. And, you know, when you play that, when you commit to a role, you make it work, and he does. And yeah, worked very well. His
exchanges with Schumer were priceless.
Yeah.
He looks so glum.
He looks so glum. And he gives him a little, roughs him up on the shoelder. Just the physicality of it too. This big guy.
It was like classic 1930s madcap comedy shit.
Exactly.
It really was. Yeah. And with Bloomberg fuming in the front there.
Yeah, in the foreground. Bloomberg just not loving it at all. Yeah, exactly. All right, let's keep going here, folks. Furrow Queen Fire Dancer. I'm confident in staying awake for the phone-in. I had a long snooze this afternoon in preparation. Excellent. Also, did anyone see the Hall of Fame DMB induction last night? Also, Leafs lost to the Islanders. Didn't watch the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, but you know what's right next door to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Progressive Field, where the New York Yankees defeated the Cleveland Guardians to advance to the World Series. So I did have my eyes on Cleveland last night, Furrow Queen. Thank you very much. All right. Hey, folks, we're going to read some more super chats in a minute, but the Hebe is owed his read. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
The Hebe, Dan Richmond. Hey, if you're looking for a break from politics, how about listening to two old dudes complain about everything from recreational nose blowing to adult milk drinkers? For more information, search for Hebe and Goy where you get your podcasts, or go to hebeandgoy.com. That's hebeandgoy.com, where you can put the RSS feed on your favorite podcast player or subscribe to their YouTube channel. Hebe and Goy, it's a great show. Dan is a great guy. He's treating Russ to the Iron Maiden concert in just a couple weeks.
Yeah.
He's got our sense of humor. It's basically an apolitical version of this show. Two guys talking shit about everyday life. They have the same difficulty with everyday life as we have with Democrats and Republicans. And so it is a very funny show. It's very easy listening. It's a very, very pleasant watch. So go subscribe to them on YouTube, Hebe and Goy, or find them on any podcast player. There you go, Dan. Got you your tax write-off. Beautiful. All right. Maybe Dan will call in tonight. Kyler Bleeker, September 14th, Biden-Harris State Department wanted to override Pentagon and catapult us into nuclear war with Russia. Trump urged Israel to strike Iran's nuclear facilities, but he's still the significantly lesser danger to Kamala Harris. Yeah, they talked about that at the Kingston peace rally I was at on the 14th. That was kind of a major story that slipped under the radar. Kyler Bleeker, Kamala says the goal is to deny Kamala the win, especially in the Michigan nail-biter. By virtue, votes for Stein alone. Shouldn't we be reminding swing state voters the lesser danger Trump is a stronger vote against Kamala Harris? I'm not convinced he is a lesser danger on that front. He might be, but I'm not convinced of that, number one. And number two, I think the more powerful vote in this sense is an anti-genocide vote. Yeah. Anti-genocide vote. As we'll show you in 2 segments from now, Trump is not that. Not that by a long shot.
At the end of this bit, he got serious and he said, yes, it's terrible what's happening to the people in Ukraine. It's got to end. When I'm president, I'm going to end it even before. When I'm the president-elect, I'm going to end it. Okay, well, how are you going to do that exactly?
Yeah.
Like Zelensky isn't going to accept anything. I mean, unless you're going to say we're cutting you off. Is he going to do that? He has not said he will.
Exactly. Q-Star Sonic, thanks for the $9.99. Appreciate that. Circle Snare, thanks for the $4.99. The World Food Program is currently matching donations for Gaza for whatever that's worth, with the inevitable blocking of it. Yeah, just absolutely horrific what's happening in northern Gaza, especially right now, which we're going to get to later on the show. Landrew, thanks for $100. Let's get a cowbell for Landrew and a sound drop for Landrew. When Trump wins, the Democrats will spend 4 years trying to put him in prison, doing nothing for us. That is our only hope. Free Palestine. Happy birthday to Violin. Thank you, Landrew.
I am Landrew. Landrew is dead.
Appreciate that very much, my friend. All right, folks. So we have 2 segments now from 2 cable news stations, CNN and then MSNBC. Here's a pretty shocking piece of video from CNN. First, they go over a timeline of how Kamala's rhetoric about Israel-Gaza has remained exactly the same, despite demands from her base to move left on the issue. And then we hear a pretty fascinating piece of commentary from one of their contributors.
Let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis. Well, let's
10th.
start with October 7.
1,200
people were massacred. A terrorist attack that killed 1,200 innocent people. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. I maintain Israel has a right to defend itself. Israel has a right to defend itself because it is also true far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. A war that has led to unconscionable suffering of many innocent Palestinians. What we know is that this war must end. This war has to end. This moment gives us an opportunity to finally end the war in Gaza.
she would say, and said this week, that is message discipline. But this, for her, is a very important political issue where there is a segment of the Democratic coalition that wants to see actually a change in the rhetoric. They want to see her move in a particular direction. Has she done enough?
I don't think so. And I've been talking to people in the business sector in the Arab American community, and I was really surprised this week to get an earful to hear them say that they would much rather either vote a third party, not vote at all, or vote for Donald Trump. And I'm telling you, it's not obviously a significant sample size, but I cannot find one Arab American within my social circle in business or personally who have said that they will vote for Kamala Harris. When you look at the polling, it seems sort of neck and neck. What they are saying, and this is not a Donald Trump campaign line, that Tiffany Trump's father-in-law, who's a Lebanese businessman, has been successful in kind of converting and talking to people to explain why Trump would be better. Even with a Muslim ban, even with everything else that has happened, they feel they do not have any political clout. They don't have any political operation. The only political power they have is their vote, even if it means the rise of Donald Trump.
That's extraordinary.
It is extraordinary. Not one Arab that she could find said they were voting for Kamala Harris. Some said they were voting for a third party. Some said they were voting Trump. And the rationale there is really interesting. The only clout we have is our vote. And so we must deny Kamala Harris our vote. Even if it is for Trump, who would be just as bad on this issue, they feel like if they don't deny the Democrats the vote, they are surrendering what power they have over an ostensibly left party that is supposed to give a damn what they have to say. And there's a reason why they played that timeline. This is their candidate is a robot. Their candidate is non-responsive to anything anyone has to say. The candidate just spits out whatever her advisors put in. And so the only thing they can do is deny Kamala Harris the vote. This next piece of video that I'm going to play is from MSNBC, where they actually talk to a small handful of the Arab voters themselves. Do you have anything to add before we go to that?
Well, this is Nick has been saying this since Abandon Harris made that endorsement, and maybe before, that this is something a lot of constituencies, like the African American community, need to learn. The Democrats, as long as they can take you for granted, they will take you for granted.
Exactly.
Who was it? It was Lawrence O'Donnell. Jimmy always plays that clip.
Yep.
Who said before he got his mind right, yeah, if they know they've got your vote, they don't care.
Exactly.
They don't care. Look at everything they do for suburban Republicans.
Yep.
Oh my God, they'll go so far. Yeah, you know, I mean, I could see abortion limits. I could see where you're coming from on that, man.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
The left. Could we have a public option? Socialist, communist, shut up. Do you want to undermine the party?
Right.
If we go too far left, we lose the suburban Republicans.
Exactly. So here's an MSNBC segment where they actually talk to a few of these Arab voters.
18 days until Election Day and the conflict in the Middle East growing, the crisis in the region could determine how many Arab Americans
looks like
will
a
cast
crisis
their
to
ballot
me.
in the race for the White House. NBC's Yasmin Vasugian sat down with a group of Lebanese American voters to get their thoughts. She joins us this morning. Amiga, it's great seeing you. What did you learn from these voters?
This is my third time in Dearborn throughout this election season, throughout this year, Jose. And these group of voters, they feel forgotten. They feel as if the only time their vote matters is every 4 years when there isn't, in fact, an election. But in the interim period, they are not heard. And they feel as if the war, both in Gaza and now spilling out into Lebanon, is representative of the fact that their vote doesn't necessarily matter. Let's take a listen to more of what they had to say, Jose, and then we'll talk on the other side. How are you feeling 2.5 weeks out from this election?
Betrayed, second-class citizens. We've been dehumanized. I don't even know if I can use second class. I feel like we're almost third or fourth class citizens now.
This is what we're trying to grapple with as a community of color, as a community that is civically engaged, and a community that's done everything right here in America, right? But we've been told that you don't matter, to the extent that we will continue to shed the blood of your people.
Yeah, that's a really important point. I just want to break it there. We are going to play the whole thing. It's true. Like, Muslim Americans have done everything right. They really have. They've really done nothing to deserve the treatment that they get both here and around the world, that their families get around the world. I mean, Muslim Americans, I was in junior high school after 9/11. A couple Muslim kids got bullied, got picked on. They didn't fight back. They didn't say anything. They kept their head down because they feel like they can't punch a bully in the face when he comes up to them and taunts them about 9/11. They just have to take it, right? So that's a good point. Like, this is a community that has really been shut up and subjugated for a very long time in this country, long before October 7th in this past year. The post 9/11 years were very, very hard. Very, very hard on Muslims here. You notice every gas station owned by a Muslim guy had like 50 American flags in the parking lot after 9/11.
I saw a lot of Muslim bodegas actually go under after 9/11.
Wouldn't surprise me, yeah. Yeah. So that's a good point. All right, we'll let this go.
As Arab Americans in this community, as Lebanese Americans now in this community. And you say politicians. Which politicians do you blame?
They're the ones that are approving the weapons, the resources to bomb our people back home.
That's MSNBC's edit, not ours. It sounds like she named a name and they cut it out of the report. That's what it sounds like. I mean, she doesn't answer the question there. Did she say Joe Biden or Kamala Harris? Like, it's weird how they would edit. This was pre-taped, obviously, as well. It wasn't live. So that is a suspicious edit there. But you get where they're going with this pretty quickly.
Although I'm here, I'm an American, I work here, I've had my kids here, my roots are still in Lebanon. I feel like they're turning their back on us. That's my home, my homeland. And they're the ones that are bombing it.
200,000 voters, Jose, Arab American voters in the state of Michigan are at stake. And as we know, it is integral to the election to win that state for both of these candidates. And so they are really kind of vying for these votes. The three individuals that we heard from are likely voting for Jill Stein, a third-party candidate. And I pressed them saying, there are many people that will argue and say a vote for Jill Stein in the state of Michigan is, in fact, a vote for Donald Trump. Donald Trump has said repeatedly he will reinstate the Muslim ban. He has said he wants Netanyahu to, quote unquote, finish the job. They say a vote for Jill Stein for the third party is, in fact, a protest vote. And they say that because essentially they want to change the system, that they over and over have been forced to choose the lesser of two evils. And they're done doing that, especially because they feel as if their vote has been taken for granted. And they feel as if they do this protest vote third party, vote for Jill Stein instead of, for instance, for Kamala Harris, as historically the Arab American community has voted for the Democratic candidate. In fact, maybe that will force the system to further bolster a third party candidate. And that is what they, Jose, are voting for in light of being one issue voters. They're voting because of the ongoing war in the Middle East.
So there you go.
Councilman Masukian, thank you so very much. Appreciate it.
So they are voting for Jill Stein as a protest vote in the hopes of changing the system, even if that tips the scale in favor of Donald Trump. They reference specifically Michigan in that report, where there are 200,000 Arab voters. So this rally around Jill Stein in that state particularly is getting a lot of press right now. It's causing the Democrats major headaches. I wish Jill Stein would lean into that more. That's why I asked her that in our interview, and I pressed her slightly when she kind of gave a rebuke of Shamma's very combative strategy of, yes, our goal is to cost Kamala Michigan. But this is the play that voters like that are making. Like, people like that whose families are being murdered right now. They have endured a year of literal hell on earth. They are voting for Jill Stein. Abandon Harris has endorsed Jill Stein. And to the extent they feel that's what they have to do, I feel strongly that we should back them in that. And this brings us to something that came up earlier on the stream. We're not going to get too much into this, but Butch Ware fired off a tweet a few days ago where he listed the Uyghurs amongst a group of peoples who he feels have been profoundly wronged. Some people sort of clapped back at him over that. He responded in a way that I would expect an academic to respond, in kind of a snot-nosed way. He ended up talking down to a lot of people, turning off his replies, not wanting to hear from people who had a difference of opinion. I'm not here to defend his conduct. What I'm here to suggest we all do is, in solidarity with those people who we just saw in that report, show up and vote for Jill Stein anyway. Not for Butch Ware, not for Jill Stein, not for the Greens. This is not about Butch Ware. It's not about Jill Stein. It's not about the Greens. And most importantly, it's not about you and it's not about me. This is about showing up for somebody else. This is about showing up for people whose family members are being burned alive, whose family members are being slaughtered, whose families have endured a year of literal hell on earth, if they have endured it all. Let's put everything aside for the next couple weeks and show up for these people. That's what we said we were going to do this year. They were going to come first. They come first. All our other shit comes second. All our other shit comes second. It's not that you don't have a point. You do have a point. It's not that Butch Ware is not an asshole. I'm sure he is. In a few weeks, we're not going to have to hear from Butch Ware anymore. Nobody's going to hear from him after a few weeks. What we got to do on Election Day is show up in solidarity with these people who have suffered enough. They're asking us a very simple favor. Let's all just do it.
Yes. If you've watched the show for a while, you know how hard I've worked to make Dave Chappelle the president. And if I'm willing to set that aside this year to write in Jill Stein in my state where I can't even just vote for her on the ballot, I have to actually write it in. Especially if she's on your ballot, just go ahead and do it.
Right.
We are already, I think, thinking ahead beyond the election. This is what we can do for now. And in a couple of weeks, it's over. Were you talking about the Green Party between 2020 and now?
Right.
You're not going to be talking about it in December, man. It's
Right.
not worth having these kinds of internecine fights over this. And honestly, it's a problem that the left has in general. It's a cliche of the left. I think it's exacerbated by the social media platforms and the algorithms. But it's a cliche that you get a bunch of leftists and they all start fighting over doctrine, and they have a tendency towards the purity displays and beating their chest. Okay, that you're not going to beat the fascist takeover that is gradually creeping up and sweeping over America, as many of our communist friends say is the inevitable outcome of a collapse or crisis in capitalism. That ultimately, when you see that, you're going to see fascism. You want to coordinate a left response to that? Shit's got to stop. You got to be able to be tactical. It doesn't mean, as Keaton points out, doesn't mean that you're wrong. You're right, in our opinion. Does it matter right now? Like tactically right now, in terms of what we're doing to support this community, as small as it is. I wish we could do more. It's a paltry gesture, but it's what we can do. It's a very small lift that they're asking.
Exactly. And it would make more sense if the Greens were going to spearhead whatever comes after Election Day, then it would be a worthwhile fight. It's not a worthwhile. They're not. They're going to go away just like they always do after every election. You're not going to have to worry about what Butch Ware thinks about anything in a couple weeks, which means, in my opinion, you don't have to worry about what he thinks now. If Abandon Harris said, everybody write in Mickey Mouse, I'd tell you to write in Mickey Mouse. If they said, as a troll, we're going to tell everybody to write in Miley Cyrus, and Miley Cyrus fired off a cringe tweet about something, is it worth fighting with Miley Cyrus? No. I mean, you can if you want, but why? Mm-hmm. Why? What's the point? This is about something very simple and very narrow in scope. It's about solidarity with people who have been deprioritized and sold out and forgotten time after time after time. We don't want to let something like this get in the way at the last minute. If you let something like this get in the way at the last minute, that is functionally the same, not morally, but functionally the same as what Kyle Kalinske did. When Tim Walz came around and promised him a free lunch, he was like, I'm going to vote green in solidarity with Gaza. I'm there. Oh, free lunch. Oh, okay, I guess I'll go vote for that. Sorry, I was going to join you in your protest vote. Something came up at the last minute, right? It's the same thing here.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to vote for you in solidarity, but he fired off a cringe tweet about Uyghurs, so I guess I can't now. No. Please, I beg you, don't do that. Don't do that. Stay the course for 2 more weeks. Show up for these people.
I saw the other day everyone's favorite hater of women's sports, Emma Vigeland. She tweeted out as a justification for why all of these podcasters who have been crying to the heavens in solidarity with the Palestinian people for a year, just flipped right over to voting for the people who have murdered them. It's very simple for me. She tweeted out something to that effect. It's very simple for me. You pick your weakest enemy. Okay, ding-a-ling. So where does that go? How has that worked out now? I mean, that was y'all's logic in 2020, right? You pick your weakest enemy, get behind Biden, right?
Right.
Okay. So what impact have you had on this administration? You were going to hold his feet to the fire. How's that worked out for you? Yeah, I mean, burning people alive. Is that what you meant by holding Biden's feet to the fire? So to say again to people, well, you pick your weakest enemy. The only leverage you have over them is to deny them your vote. If you vote for them, you're not fighting them. Right. You've given up the fight against them by definition as soon as you vote for them. That's obvious. That's clear. Are these people being paid by the CIA? Maybe. I just finished up Chaos today. I hope to have the author on. CIA's been playing games in the media space and the culture space for many, 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 many decades. And it would not surprise me if a lot of these people who so conveniently tailor their politics to bring in a left audience and then switch right to sheepdogging on behalf of the establishment anytime an election comes close. Not only would it not surprise me if they get paid by somebody, it would surprise me if they don't get paid by anybody.
All righty. Let's keep moving along here. Luis de la Cruz, my new job consumes my time and have missed several live casts, but I saw the recorded interview with Diane Sayre and remember why I admired you guys in this show. Thank you for your objectivity. Appreciate that, Luis. Thank you very much.
You.
All right, Furrows Clean. That's got a bad word in it. I'm going to save that for the Rumble side, but I'll get to it. Ernest Dowson, thanks for the $10. It's time for the DNC to swap out Harris for Fetterman. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's a good plan. I like that idea. El Casador, thanks for the $2. Kamala cannot attend the dinner because she was hitting a Diddy freak-off in jail party. Her handler husband was going as the gimp. Thank you. That Molly Shannon bit is as funny as a disease. Thank you, Cool Blue. Appreciate that. Noah Goop says, get this woman the nuclear codes immediately. Thank you, Noah Goop. Appreciate that. I think only explanation for this level of disconnect with how a normal person thinks isn't just a class thing. I think she is genuinely a sociopath. That's Russell's theory. If Kamala Harris if Kamala wins, will her election night victory speech be accompanied by the opening theme from the Emmy-winning NBC series The West Wing? Yeah, there you go. It's an idea, Cool Blue. Thank you for that. All right. Iron Man over on YouTube says, my 2 favorite small hats. Christ is King. God bless. Thank you, Iron Man. David Santucci, thanks for the $20. Kamala says far too many innocent Palestinians have been deleted. So what number does she think wouldn't be too many? Good question, David. Thank you for that. Mike, thanks for the $50. Let's have a cowbell for Mike. Appreciate that, Mike. Thank you very much. It's very generous of you. Keaton's take on the Electoral College a couple episodes ago was interesting. A couple days later, Jimmy did one all about abolishing it. No, I did that. I did that after Jimmy because somebody was referencing Jimmy's on this show. Yeah, I'm not that smart. Would abolishing the Electoral College eliminate the very shady practice of gerrymandering? No, because gerrymandering takes place in the House. What the Electoral College would basically do is render the Senate irrelevant. That's why a lot of people say if you're going to abolish the Electoral College, you may as well abolish the Senate. But the House would remain intact. So no, that would not affect gerrymandering, to answer your question. Artie Barty Fart Blast, thanks for the $7.99. It's a shame Shama wasn't USA born. President Sawant has a nice ring to it. Yeah, absolutely. Salamander Fry, thanks for the $10. Hey, you guys are all right. You're all right too. Appreciate that, Salamander Fry. We'll read
Thank
this
you.
one since our next segment answers it. Richard Canuck, thanks for the $10. Do you think Trump will really work for a ceasefire? No, I don't. No, I don't. And the reason I don't is answered pretty clearly here in this next segment. Folks, this is a quick one. The media caught up to Donald Trump. You know, we've been having some fun with Donald Trump this episode. You know, we've been noogieing him a little bit. You know, he worked the McDonald's fry machine. That was cute and funny. His set at the Al Smith dinner was cute and funny. But like a punch to the face, reality hits. Here he is being asked if he spoke with Netanyahu since the killing of Yahya Sinwar.
About it? He's called me, yes. He's called me. I have not spoken. I'm going to speak to him probably now.
What are you going to tell him?
Well, look, he's doing a good job. Biden is trying to hold him back. Just so you understand, Biden is far superior to the VP. He's trying to hold him back, and he probably should be doing the opposite, actually. I'm glad that Bibi decided to do what he had to do, but it's moving along pretty good.
So there you have it. Biden's trying to hold him back.
It's just 4D chess, Keaton.
Yeah, right, exactly. Biden's trying to hold him back. He should be doing the opposite. But I'm glad Bibi decided to do what he had to do. It's moving along pretty good. That's Trump's description of the last year in Gaza. Moving along pretty good. So, yeah, that should answer anybody's question. Is he the peace candidate? Is he playing some sort of 4D chess? Is he going to rein in Benjamin Netanyahu? No, I think he will do the exact opposite. I think the difference between how Kamala will handle Netanyahu and how Trump will handle Netanyahu is Trump will let him do a certain warp speed, if you will. He will let him finish the war quicker with horrific, deadly force. Whereas Kamala, you'll have the same result, but over a more prolonged period of time. Why? Because Democrats have to virtue signal to their base that they care about brown people in other countries, and they're trying to rein him in, which means it has to happen slowly over an extended period of time. Trump has no responsibility to do that. Yeah, with a flatter curve, exactly. Trump has no responsibility to do that since his base doesn't seem to care about this issue very much. So to any MAGA viewers who are watching, if you care a lot about this, you should let Trump know about it. Maybe create some pressure. That's the only place it can come from. If you guys are not making any noise about this, he's not going to rein Benjamin Netanyahu in at all. So gaslighting people about how no, he's not giving away his real plan. He's gonna make a play for peace when he gets in. That ain't gonna do it. That ain't gonna do it. If you're a Trump supporter and you are appalled by what's going on, as I trust many of you are, we have many of you in our audience, you need to be making noise about this 24/7, and you need to be directing that ire at Donald Trump. You have more influence over him than anyone else. Trump wants to be liked. He wants to be loved. So it's going to fall to his base to actually protest him. Are you guys going to do that? If Trump wins, we know the libs are going to have their freak out protests in January and February, right? Some of those may be oriented toward Gaza. Are the MAGA people going to show up, or are they going to make fun of the protest? Look at how triggered the libs are about genocide, right? What comes first, triggering the libs or showing up to try and protest a genocide? If you're willing to show up and protest Donald Trump, that's one thing. If you're going to make excuses for him, that's another. That's another, because as you just saw in that video, this guy, when left to his own devices, has no intentions whatsoever of slowing down, much less stopping the wholesale slaughter of an entire people.
Yes, and he's made that clear again and again. And to say that, no, that's what he's saying in public, basically the Nixon madman theory. That's what he's going to say in public to get leverage, and then he's going to negotiate a peace. If that's what you're saying, how are you any different from people who say, well, Kamala's saying what she needs to say now.
Right.
But once she gets elected, and then the old white man's not in charge anymore. Then she's going to turn it all around. How are you any different from those people? That's just hopium. He's telling you what he's going to do. And unlike Kamala, you have actually less reason to believe that he has a secret agenda because he's been the president. You saw what he did. They have a settlement named for him in the West Bank. He moved the embassy to Jerusalem. He did the bidding according to his own speech of the Adelsons. He bragged on stage in front of a camera about how quickly he did the will of the Adelsons. Why on earth would you think he's going to be any better in this regard? Ukraine, we always want to be fair here. It's very, he's said 10 different things about it. It's hard to say. Maybe he'll be better. Maybe he won't. I can't see anyone being worse than the deep state ghouls that are running the Biden administration would be. So I could see you arguing at least there's a chance with him on that. But on Israel, he's going to get completely behind the Greater Israel Project, which is really what's going on here. They're really trying to claim this land from the river to the sea.
Yes, 100%. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick game break here for a word from Rumble Premium. So, folks, this sponsorship is from Rumble, and it's one that's incredibly important to the survival of their platform. So when Rumble first started in 2013, they built the platform for the small creator. They didn't censor or have biases. They were fair and treated all creators equally. No one thought platforms would censor political conversation or opinions around issues like COVID, but they did. Facebook admitted they fell to pressure from the Biden and Harris administration. Rumble did not fall to that pressure, though. They held the line, and they're attacked daily for giving creators like us a voice to talk to audiences like you. They're attacked in corporate media, by governments like France, and from brand advertisers who refuse to work with them. So corporate America is fighting to remove speech. Rumble is fighting to preserve it. But Rumble won't survive with brand advertisers because they don't get much of it. So watching our show on Rumble is the most they can ask from you. But if you really believe in the fight and you have the means, one major way you can help Rumble survive is by joining Rumble Premium, which is the ad-free version of the Rumble platform. So join the community that believes, in the First Amendment and believes in our human right to free speech. Rumble is offering $10 off with the promo code STUDIO when you purchase an annual subscription. So go to rumble.com/premium and use your promo code STUDIO for $10 off an annual subscription to the ad-free version of the Rumble platform. Like I said, if you have the means and believe in the cause, now's the time to join Rumble Premium. If you don't have the means, we are just happy, of course, if you watch us on the platform. All righty, there we go. Moving right along here. What else we got here? We got some Rumble rants here. Round of applause for Jake fielding these Rumble rants tonight. The Catholics are kind of light on comedy. Hey, Gaffigan was good. He's a funny Catholic. He looks the part. That guy looks like a Catholic.
Yeah, I mean, he's got good delivery.
He's got good delivery. Guy's got timing. Guy's got chops. The DNC got all this money, says Doc Durkin, and this is their game plan? So much for the myth of the wealthy having superior intelligence. More like wealthy idiots. Thank you. Appreciate that. Reeton Cussell, thank you. Was Brand always a grifter, or was his canceling so bad that he became extremely desperate for money? I don't get it. Do celebrities never save even $1 of their endless wealth? Why sell out? I'm sure he's got some coin. And I heard some people comment on that clip. Well, he wasn't selling it. He was just doing an ad read for it. It was just a sponsorship. Listen, folks, right now, as we speak, we could make some decent money reading an ad for a Donald Trump super PAC that's hawking free stickers. We're not going to, because we don't want to direct you to a Donald Trump super PAC. You can say no to an advertiser. Yes. It's not their advertiser's fault, but you don't have to say yes to every advertiser that offers you a bag of cash.
Yes.
We've turned down a lot of ad opportunities, a lot of very lucrative ad opportunities, because we don't want to appear like hucksters repping bullshit products. So he's capable of doing the same.
Yes, we don't have that Russell Brand money.
Right, exactly.
Keaton's got 3 kids to raise.
Exactly,
and we're turning down lucrative ads because we don't want to do that to our audience.
Right.
We don't want to do that. We don't want to direct people to things that we don't agree with or we don't believe in just to make some cash. Was he always? I never watched his stuff enough to say. I saw some of his more infamous appearances where he did some great work confronting the people on Morning Joe. He had that moment on Bill Maher that was really good. Honestly, I found his shit repetitive. People like him, people like Cornell who have a shtick, it gets repetitive. They sound brilliant the first time you hear them. And then if you keep listening to them, you realize they just keep recycling the same shit and
Right.
making it sound like it's coming off the top of their head. You know,
Right.
if Russell Brand and Cornel West had a baby, they would be endlessly referencing George Orwell and Fannie Lou Hamer, and that would be the extent of its vocabulary.
Right.
So I was never into him like that. From what I could see, it seemed like a guy who got off the drugs and decided to try to make a positive impact on the world by criticizing some of the evils of the world and introducing some spirituality into it. And yeah, man, come on. They Me Too'd him. He went hard right, and he never looked back. And it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. Because I think once you start going down that road, you know, one compromise leads to another moral compromise, and after a while, you're that horse, man. You get used to being led that way, and you just keep going that way.
Yeah, and I heard people say it's not really a magic amulet, it's an EMF blocker. All right.
Well, that's
First
a
of all,
lot better.
Assuming that shit works, you can get like a 10-pack of EMF blockers for like $19 on Amazon.
Yeah,
You don't have to spend $300.
If you really want one.
Yeah, if you really want one. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, all right. Holy shit, couldn't they find Garrett Morris? Baseball been very, very good to Keaton. Thank you, Killer Ian.
I think he's dead. Isn't he dead?
I would
Is
imagine.
Garrett Morris still alive?
I don't know. Somebody look that up. Trump sounds like he's drunk. Roll on the floor. Thank you. He does have that slow speech sometimes when he reads. That's true. All right, folks. We got some more segments to do tonight. Here, Russ, this one is yours.
All right. So this is going to be one of those kind of special reports brought to us by the smartest audience on YouTube and Rumble, our audience. Okay, so I hadn't heard about this change in the Defense Department. But when we did the Trump segment about the Madison Square Garden rally, I mentioned posse comitatus, and a lot of people mentioned that there was this change in the Defense Department guidelines, and a lot of people also mentioned Barack Obama effectively gutting posse comitatus. So I want to take a look at this. I dove into this. We'll discuss that, and we'll also discuss how there's been an overall pattern for a very long time towards what some people might say preparing to suppress the population by militarizing law enforcement. Okay, so starting with the recent event that's been getting a lot of buzz, and Jimmy did a segment about this too. This was first published in Zero Hedge. U.S. military now authorized to kill Americans on U.S. soil. Still a question mark. Don't panic. As the U.S. prepares for one of the most controversial and closely watched elections in its history, a concerning update to DoD Directive 5240.01 has quietly been put into effect. Reissued on September 27, 2024, this directive governs the Department of Defense's intelligence activities and now includes provisions authorizing lethal force in certain circumstances when assisting civilian law enforcement. While the directive forbids assassination, it opens the door to lethal interventions under national security conditions. The reissuance of DoD Directive 5240.01 repealed, I feel like I'm in Brazil, not the country, the movie, repealed previous versions, including the 1982 DoD. I'm not reading that again. You got the picture. While the update might seem routine, the changes regarding the use of lethal force in domestic operations are significant. In the 2016 version, the directive primarily focused on intelligence collection and ensuring civil liberties protections for U.S. persons. It emphasized strict oversight and the need for authorization before collecting U.S. person information. However, the 2024 version expands the military's role, particularly in assisting civil law enforcement, and authorizes lethal force under specific conditions, raising questions about its use during potential civil unrest surrounding the election. The relevant provisions from the updated directive are below. Quote, subject to paragraph 3.1, defense intelligence components may provide personnel to assist a federal department or agency including a federal law enforcement agency or a state or local law enforcement agency when lives are in danger in response to a request for such assistance in accordance with the following approval authorities. A. Secretary of Defense approval. The Secretary of Defense may approve any type of requested permissible assistance described in paragraph 3.2. Now, I read this over several times, and I'm not a lawyer, but it sounds to me like they're essentially saying, at the discretion of the Secretary of Defense, any request that they get that claims that there's a reasonable need for support will allow the Secretary of Defense to provide military support to civilian law enforcement. We should have Glenn on, but I think that's pretty much what it
can you
says.
explain this posse commie pussy? Can you explain pussy come inside us? Tell us more about the Pussy Come Inside Us Act of 1878.
This is, they say Donald Trump grabbed it.
Yeah.
The decision to approve requests for these types of permissible assistance described in paragraph 3.2 to law enforcement agencies and other civil authorities are reserved to the Secretary of Defense. A. Provision of personnel to support response efforts for civil disturbances, which may also require presidential authorization. B. DoD response to chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, and high-yield explosive incidents. Now, this one's the money shot, so to speak, in our Pussy Comitada segment. C. Assistance in responding with assets with potential for lethality or any situation in which it is reasonably foreseeable that providing the requested assistance may involve the use of force that is likely to result in lethal force, including death or serious bodily injury. It also includes all support to civilian law enforcement officials in situations where a confrontation between civilian law enforcement and civilian individuals or groups is reasonably anticipated. So I don't see how you would interpret that other than blanket permission for any civilian police force that claims that they're worried that they're going to encounter protesters, for example, that may do them bodily harm, to call in the military. I don't see any other way you would interpret that. The U.S. military, for the record, is expressly prohibited from engaging domestically with the citizenry with very specific, narrow exceptions per the Posse Comitatus Act. Quote, whoever, except in cases and under circumstances expressly authorized by the Constitution or Act of Congress, willfully uses any part of the Army, the Navy, the Marine Corps, the Air Force, or the Space Force as a posse comitatus or otherwise to execute the laws shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 2 years or both. Now, this is just the latest in the gradual erosion of our civil liberties. Anybody who's really been paying attention could have told you that all of the ingredients for a police state are in place. All it requires is an administration and a government willing to use the legal precedents put in place under both Democrats and Republicans. So here, going back a little further, you could argue that this adjustment is building on actions that Obama took, very controversially at the time. Some of you might remember this. Obama and the indefinite detention of U.S. citizens. So this article is from 2012 from The Nation. Sacrificial offerings to the Pentagon aren't news, but this time, snugly ensconced in the NDAA, that's the National Defense Authorization Act, came ratification by legal statute of the exposure of U.S. citizens to arbitrary arrest without subsequent benefit of counsel and to possible torture and imprisonment sine die. Sine die is a legal term that means without a date being set. So right. If a court adjourns without setting a date, it adjourns sine die. Goodbye habeas corpus. Under the terms of the NDAA, a suspect seizure by the military is a requirement if the suspect is deemed to have been substantially supporting al-Qaeda, the Taliban, or associated forces. By the military? Until December 31st, the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878 limited the powers of local governments and law enforcement agencies from using federal military personnel to enforce the laws of the land. No longer. The NDAA renders the Posse Comitatus Act a dead letter. Connoisseurs of subversion and anti-terror laws well know that associated forces can mean anything. See, for example, one of the definitions of enemy combatants minted after 2001, quote, associated forces that are engaged in hostilities against the United States or its coalition partners, including any person who has committed a belligerent act or has directly supported such hostilities in aid of such enemy forces. Okay, now I want to point something out here. So this is, everyone's talking about what just happened now in 2024, and some of our viewers pointed out Obama's act, so some are aware of this, but a lot of people have forgotten it now. If you really want to, you could pretty much arrest anybody who's spoken out on behalf of Palestine under the clause I just read.
Of course, yeah.
Right? You're giving support to a terrorist organization by their definition, by speaking out on its behalf, right? You're giving them some kind of direct support. Look at the statute, including any person who has committed a belligerent act or has directly supported such hostilities in aid of such enemy forces. So it's up to them at that point to decide what support means. It's not clearly defined what support means. They're not limiting it to material support. This is what I mean when I say all the ingredients for a police state, from mass surveillance to tracking people's internet activity to cameras in all of the cities to the right to indefinitely detain people without charge to prosecuting people based on support of organizations deemed terrorist or hostile to the United States. Everything's in place to just round people up. All that's required is the will, all the legal precedent, all the technology you need to really just create a fascist state that the fascists of old could only have dreamt of. All of that is there, only requiring the will to use it. And to some extent, they already are using it. Anything, Keaton?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's it. That's it. It is simply a question of, do they want to deal with this as a short-term political problem if they decide to actually go there, as countries around the world are deciding to go there. The UK has gone there, right?
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. Hey, some people, not everybody, but if you remember when I was there covering the Assange thing, in one of the streams, I was talking to a few guys and I said, hey man, I'm a little worried being over here.
Right.
Now I don't think anyone would laugh if you said
yeah,
that.
exactly.
I was following the news over there. So I just want to point this out very quickly. So Taibbi has probably done the most extensive writing about how these fact-checking organizations are really just cutouts for the intelligence services. At best, it's hysterical libs parroting establishment narratives. This is a really good example. So this is the kind of thing that your lib uncle has run to when they tell, no, that was a rumor that started on a very unreliable website, and they're spreading misinformation. Okay, so this whole thing never takes on the core premise of that article, which is that our civil liberties have been eroded and the Posse Comitatus Act has been undermined by this alteration to the statute. It only wants to litigate the claim that this was done in preparation for the election because that is conveniently unprovable. The article doesn't say it was definitely done for that reason. Do they go after CNN every time it says, possibly this is because of this? Do they do that? No. But here they've got this whole thing, this whole hysterical, conspiratorial hysteria. Early last week, rumors started to spread between multiple social media platforms and across political communities online about a recently reissued Department of Defense directive that documents procedures when there is a potential use of lethal force. Some online communities have speculated that the directive's changes are timed with the upcoming election, with some suggesting without evidence that the intent behind the change is that the government is planning to use force against Americans. The viral spread could be exploiting a data void, a situation where there is no reliable information about a topic in search results, given there are no published fact checks or traditional journalist coverage of the directive's changes. Wow, man. The mind of somebody who would read this and take it seriously.
Yeah.
All of it is just people are speculating. They're thinking for themselves. They don't have an authoritative source. Why is the source that printed it not an authoritative source? Well, because it's not a legacy media source. People like you didn't fact check it. It's not even really questioning the core premise. Hey, what's your theory on why they did this so close to an election? Why did they all of a sudden change this obscure section? It's not a crazy thing to speculate. And then your graphs, charts, right? So this is how the whole fact check industry works. And part of what is so dangerous about this is, hey, there are a lot of people out there who are ready to believe pretty much anything now. And part of the reason is because this is what passes for an authoritative fact check. Well, so where are they supposed to turn? You claim to be authorities, and this is just propaganda, where you're dismissing something that's clearly dangerous.
Right.
And you're dismissing people who want to talk about it and figure out what it means. So then they're not going to listen to you about anything at that point. And pretty much all the fact-checking services are like this. Okay, so just to scare the shit out of you a little more, this goes well beyond the military. This goes well beyond unleashing the military. They have been militarizing the civilian police forces for quite some time. So this article is from 2020. It's the best comprehensive article I've found on the subject. Just a little bit of this. Created as part of 1997's National Defense Authorization Act, the 1033 program allows the Department of Defense to get rid of excess equipment by passing it off to local authorities who only have to pay for the cost of shipping. A precursor, the slightly more restrictive 1208 program, began in 1990. According to the Law Enforcement Support Office, which oversees the process, over $7.4 billion of property has been transferred since the program's inception. More than 8,000 law enforcement agencies have enrolled. Much of that inventory is perfectly ordinary: office equipment, clothing, tools, radios, and so on. But the haul also includes some of the so-called controlled equipment, rifles, armored vehicles, and so on, that have helped create such a spectacle of disproportion. The Department of Defense does not provide training for law enforcement agencies that receive controlled property. Oh, what do you want, a rocket launcher? Sure, just be careful. Be careful with that thing. It's dangerous. Don't point the wrong end at your head. Instead, it's left to recipients to certify their own training each year. Quote, what programs like 1033 have done is given people the equipment to carry out operations that are traditionally done by tactical teams that otherwise would not have been able to obtain it, says Jonathan Mumolo, a political science at Princeton University who focuses on policing. That is for sure not always accompanied by extensive training. There's just a lot of variation in policing standards across the board. That seemingly lax oversight has manifested in other troubling ways as well. In a 2017 sting operation, the General Accountability Office obtained over 100 controlled items from the 1033 program, including night vision goggles and pipe bomb materials, with a total estimated value of $1.2 million. All it took was the creation of a fake law enforcement agency website and shipping address. The GAO's fraudulent application was processed and approved within a week. So look, I'm not suggesting you do this, but there is a website, and you can very easily apply for military weaponry at the Defense Logistics Agency if you want to join the 1033 program. Right there on the interwebs for anybody who wants to apply for their very own tank for their small town police force. A year after Ferguson,
we should start selling Due Dissidents tanks at Patreon memberships.
You know, I was thinking when I was reading this, we're in the wrong line of work.
Tank. Yeah,
we're in the wrong. And if anyone's ever tried to deal with any government agency, that it really shows you how efficient they can be when they want to be.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
They created a fake law enforcement agency within a week, $1.2 million in equipment. Yep. A year after Ferguson, then President Barack Obama signed an executive order that prohibited state and local law enforcement from receiving certain types of property like grenade launchers and weaponized aircraft under the 1033 program, but these restrictions were short-lived. Trump lifted them in 2017. Wow, hang on. I thought he was going to get elected and restore our freedoms and stuff. I thought he was there to bring back freedom to America. I thought he was fighting the deep state and all. That's a strange choice for a relentless fighter against the deep state.
I'm a dissident.
Guy. Yeah, I thought he was a dissident. That's not a very dissident thing to do. Although, listen, the next part of this will illustrate the difference between Democrats and Republicans right here, and there isn't much of one. Lowand argues the actual impact of that revocation has been negligible. Obama's original executive order ultimately only applied to around 300 departments, he said, and there's no sign in recent DLA inventories that previously restricted items have been sent out again. In a working paper currently under review, Lowand finds that the demilitarization efforts that did take place in those 2 years showed no detectable impact on violent crime or officer safety. So basically, Obama did what Democrats do, a meaningless gesture to claim that he did something about the problem that didn't really have very much impact. And then Trump got rid of the gesture.
Right.
That's basically what happened. Okay, so on a final note, to really illustrate, yes, this change in the wording of that section seems to open the door further to the military supporting the local police. But to suppress the population, if they're really directed to do so, if you're not already convinced they have everything they need already, and that's the end product of a decades-long effort to militarize the police, nearly 90% of American cities with populations above 50,000 have SWAT teams, more than 4 times the level of the mid-1980s. In 1980, SWAT teams across America were deployed around 3,000 times. Deployments are estimated to have risen nearly 17-fold since to 50,000 a year. Tactical police units are not just common in big cities, though nearly 90% of American cities with populations above 50,000 have SWAT teams. So do more than 90% of police departments serving cities with 25 to 50,000 people, more than 4 times the level from the mid-1980s. Most SWAT teams are deployed to serve routine drug-related warrants on private homes, often with disastrous consequences. Radley Balco, a journalist who wrote the essential book on police militarization, has found at least 50 cases where innocent people died as a result of botched SWAT raids. Tactical teams have been deployed to break up poker games, raid bars suspected of serving underage drinkers, and arrest dozens of people for the distinctly non-life-threatening crime of barbering without a license. Such tactics often draw contempt from members of the armed forces. Veterans criticized police in Ferguson for intimidating the crowd rather than controlling it, for failing to share information with citizens, and for escalating the standoff. One veteran noted that we went through some pretty bad areas in Afghanistan and we didn't have that much gear. Okay. So, yes, that change in directive, again, we're not lawyers, but the wording seems pretty clear to me. It's continuing on this trajectory that certainly Obama's opening the door to indefinite detention, using the military to grab American citizens, open that door. This kicks it open even wider. But what you also need to look at is the fact that even small town police forces now have Kevlar. A lot of times they have armored vehicles. They have military machine guns. They have everything they need to wage war on the population. And a lot of people have been saying, myself amongst them, that's not an accident. So something I often point out, because the libs are so obsessed with LGBTQ issues. It's one way I see to maybe get through to them about this. Every year during Pride, I'll often post something about Stonewall and say, you could never do this today because of the militarization of the police. You could never do this. When you read the story of Stonewall today, it's hard to imagine that they got away with this.
Oh, of course,
They were throwing rocks and bottles at the police for 3 fucking days.
Right.
The police who were barricaded in the bar called in backup. Police car drove up. The crowd turned on them. They drove away. Today, they'd come in with tanks. They'd come in with tear gas. They'd come in with pepper spray. And people would probably get killed. It would all be over in a few hours now. That is part of the consequence. Even if you're a lib and you feel like this doesn't affect you, it does affect you. If you really care about those issues, you go out and you celebrate Pride every year. Well, doesn't it bother you that the event that Pride commemorates in New York City, the march ends at Stonewall? The Gay Pride March every year ends at Stonewall. You cannot have that kind of civil disobedience. You cannot establish that kind of a protest against authority today because of this militarization of the police. And they are, in my opinion, very likely to use that in a massive way against the population if we really start to mobilize against them in the way that we have often talked about in terms of general strikes, things like that. You think they're not going to use this? I think that's a big part of why they did it. They're preparing for that.
Well, our friend Tusker and our friend Caleb Maupin have described, fascism as capitalism's response to a crisis. It benefits this American version of capitalism to have the American myth intact so that people are under the illusion that they are free, that they have a certain freedom. And through the exercise of that freedom, the wealth is all funneled to the very, very top.
Right.
When that becomes a crisis, capitalism responds forcefully, and that's what we would call fascism. And so, yes, the structures and the writings are in place such that this could happen anytime they want it to happen. They don't want it to happen until they need it to happen because it's easier for them to keep things copacetic and to keep people under the illusion that they actually have meaningful freedom. Once that illusion is stripped away and a crisis ensues, they will respond with force, and they can. The reason they haven't yet is not because they're being nice. It's because it's easier for them to have the thing run on autopilot than to really have to escalate to the point that it's foreshadowed in pieces like that.
Yeah, it's always easier to brainwash you
of course,
into going to get the stick to beat your own ass,
right,
than it is to have to actually get the stick and beat your ass.
Right,
They would much rather you beat your own ass. Yo, man, why you think you got all these rich Silicon Valley people, all these rich podcasters telling you to be a fucking libertarian?
Right, exactly.
Because they want you to fight to protect their property.
Exactly.
To protect their wealth. You ain't got no property, you ain't got no wealth, and you're yelling about property rights.
Right. That's what it's all about.
That's it.
That's what it's all about. All right. All right. Moving right along here. Russ, we're going to skip segment 5 and go right to 6 so we can get to our guest in a somewhat timely manner. We see our guest in the back. We're running a little bit behind, but we'll get to you shortly.
Okay.
Gleb Perch, thanks for the $5. I've been hammering my balls with a hammer for 14 hours. Thanks, Gleb Perch. There you go. Yasim Miller, thanks for the $15. I voted for Jill Stein. My conscience is clear. I extend my gratitude to both of you and all independent media members who have dedicated their time to advocating for justice for Palestinians. Well, thank you, Yasim. Appreciate that. Always. Henry Deschazo says, I wish Rumble would seriously spend some development time on its Android app because holy shit, that thing is a hot mess. We will pass it along. We always pass along feedback to Rumble. They are responsive to it. Thank you for that, Henry. Donald, grab him by the pussy Trump, says American version of the Hannibal Directive. Yeah, there you go. This account is pending. DOD with a coup into their guidelines. Thank you. Henry, for $50. Let's get a cowbell for Henry. Me and Kid Sensation and that home away from home in the black Benz limo with the cellular phone. I'm calling up the posses. It's time to get ripping. The freaks need a sunroof to keep you suckers tripping. Beautiful. That gets a heart for Henry. Lovey Dovey for $99.99. Let's have another cowbell for Lovey Dovey. Thank you. You guys have been making it rain tonight. Thank you for your generosity. Appreciate that very much.
Thank you very much.
We don't sell magic amulets, so we do need super chats. Yes.
Yeah.
EMF protectors.
We need your support.
Myself. Exactly. Lovey Dovey, thanks for the $99.99. Good job on your reports. You're right. We are doomed. Thank you, Lovey Dovey. Appreciate that very much.
That's not what we're saying.
That's not what we're saying. No, just saying what we're up against. Hey, Jake, why don't we hit that supporter scroll, please? Thank you very much.
All right, I want to do the movie list.
That's right. So, perks of becoming a member at patreon.com, dudissidents.substack.com, or dudissidents.locals.com, which is where we're really pushing, because they are linked with Rumble, and they are a free speech membership platform. You can hit that join button underneath the video player if you're watching on Rumble right now, 1,600 strong in the Rumble chat. If you hit that join button, you get your name up in lights here. You get call-in access to our Sunday night Q&As, which is coming up tonight after the show. Tonight's Sunday, so we will be on Rumble for the final segment of the show, as well as the Q&A. You also get access to special streams. So we have a new package deal for our members, which is we're going to give you advanced access, live stream access to our pre-recorded interviews, monthly movie night, as well as a monthly supporter stream at the end of the month with a Q&A. That is the package in addition to your name up in lights on the scroll, call-in access to the Q&As, all that for a lovely $5 per month. We are organizing our first movie night, which is going to be a week from this Tuesday, very close to Halloween. We have some finalists that Russell has narrowed down for our politically themed horror film movie night. Those movie nights are one night only, by the way. We have cleared it with Rumble. They are okay with doing it. It is not a copyright violation because we're going to be providing running commentary, and it is fair use. But a lot of these places don't care if it's fair use. They'll come at you anyway.
YouTube doesn't give a shit.
Well, that's why we're not doing it. They were doing it with Rumble, who is actually going to protect our fair use rights. But just in case, these are going to be one night only events since we don't need headaches from the movie studios. So, Russell, go ahead. Our finalists.
All right. So, Jake, if you can, try to keep an eye on what people say in the chat. So, if you have an opinion, these are the ones that are being considered right now because the first movie night is going to take place a few days before Halloween. We're going for horror, sci-fi, politically themed movies. So, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I'm torn between the 1956 and 78. They're both great. Dawn of the Dead, 1978, no question. They Live. That's a fun one. Eating Raoul. I'll be impressed with those of you who know. Society. That's a fun one. The Crazies. Again, the original 1973 George Romero, not the remake.
The remake was good, though.
The remake was good. Yeah. The remake was good. But there's something really creepy about that period in filmmaking. The colors, it was just eerie. It's eerie in a way that they just can't pull off now. The Hunt, and personal favorite, A Boy and His Dog. Although that one might have a little too much nudity in it. I don't know what Rumble's policy is on that. So if you have look, somebody voted for Eating Raoul. I'm impressed. So they live as a popular one, as I would have expected. Being There is not a horror movie. All right. So, and listen, so Keaton mentioned it. So, if you watch the show, me and Keaton both come out of a theater background, and it's been a long time project of mine to try to promote artists in the spirit of a revolution without dancing. It's a revolution not worth having. One of the weirdest things about this moment is the lack of really meaningful art to go with left politics. But Kevin Augustine is a brilliant artist. I've known him since the 90s. I had the honor of presenting his work in my own theater back then. And he's still at it, man, but he's looking to leave the country for reasons we're talking about. So it's probably going to be your last chance to see him. So on the intermission, you're going to see some really beautiful anti-war street guerrilla theater Kevin was doing. And also an advertisement for one of his shows, The God Project. And then he's going to come on and we're going to talk about his upcoming show, which Jimmy is actually going to be calling into on November 17th. So it's going to be a talk back with our friend Jimmy Dore. And Kevin will be coming on for an interview on the other side of the intermission. And the intermission is going to show some amazing work that he's done.
Yep. So get ready to switch over to Rumble. After this final segment, we have one more segment. It's a quick one before we get to that, but dudissidents.com/Rumble. We will meet you over there shortly, but we do have one more segment to do here on the YouTube side and a couple more Rumble rants. We'll finish up Rumble rants over on the Rumble side as well. Violent Fembot, Trump's true genius is visibly cracking up Schumer at Al Smith dinner and serving up fries, is making a TDS afflicted individuals and the Trump is Hitler MSM look overreactive and unhinged. Well, we balanced that out with his Netanyahu take. Noah Goob, Zelensky said Trump promised to keep backing Ukraine in a private meeting. I think his plan is to make a peace offer. If it doesn't work, he will escalate. Thank you, Noah Goop. Appreciate that. Ellen Jimerson, Keaton, you sure can preach. I love it, and I love you. Love you too, Ellen. Thank you so much. Doc Durkin, I'm voting against this Democratic administration and against genocide, and I've got a choice between Stein and De La Cruz, both on the ballot here in Hawaii. Thank you, Doc Durkin. You're fired. Donald Trump as a McDonald's manager, probably. There you go. Thank you. Liddy B, appreciate that. Louise Brooks, people may want to tell their governor not to allow National Guard to be mobilized to Israel. There you go. Thank you, Louise. Appreciate that very much. All right, folks, one more segment, then we're going to take a break, and we're going to bring on our guest, the great Kevin Augustine. This was fire. This came across my feed last night. Jeremy Scahill. Hey, where's Jeremy Scahill been? When he was working for The Intercept, he wasn't working all that much, but now he's got drop site news, and for some reason, MSNBC gave their host the okay to invite him on the show.
Somebody got fired.
Yeah, to talk about the death of Yahya Sinwar. And Jeremy used this appearance the way anyone of our peers should use an appearance on mainstream media. He lit the place up. We're going to play this pretty much straight through.
Site News and co-founder of Drop Site News and co-founder of The Intercept. Jeremy, it's great to see you again. I know you've covered Hamas extensively throughout the year. You know a lot about Yahya Sinwar and other Hamas leaders. Can you tell us why, first of all, he has been so controversial as a figure to the Israelis and the Americans even before October 7th?
Yeah, I just want to begin by saying that as we're speaking tonight, the Israelis are waging an extermination campaign in the north of Gaza. For the past 2 weeks, they've surrounded the area, and they've intensified it after the killing of Yahya Sinwar. No food or medicine of any kind has reached most parts of the north. I'm in direct touch. I am in with medical officials in the north and with journalistic colleagues. I understand that at least 80 people have been killed tonight in a horrifying set of attacks on half a dozen residential buildings. I've just gotten done seeing images from the ground where children are being shredded like meat in a butcher shop. I don't understand how any of us, whether we're journalists or not, this isn't about objectivity, how any of us can watch this genocide unfold in real time and watch the pontificating of the politicians running for president and not just cry out, this has to stop. I mean, this has to stop. We've looked at this. I mean, I know you've reported on the ground from Gaza. I mean, we're watching a genocide in real time. And I'm sorry, but on this network also, there are people who have promoted propaganda from Israel. There are people cheerleading for those running for office who are lying to the American people about concern for the Palestinians. And yes, we should talk about Yahya Sinwar. But Yahya Sinwar is also in many ways the story of Gaza. You know, yes, this was a violent man, but his violence was rooted in the fact that he was born in a refugee camp. And Israel, throughout his entire life, waged a war of annihilation against the Palestinians. I'm not here to defend Yahya Sinwar. I'm here to say that we can't talk about who Yahya Sinwar was or what Hamas is without talking about 76 years of colonialism, of apartheid, of mass killing, of mowing the lawn, of controlling the calories. Yahya Sinwar's death, the White House is saying this provides a moment to sort of pivot and to make a settlement. And what does Netanyahu do in response to those speeches from Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and John Kirby? He doubles down. Yeah. He goes full force, final solution on the people of northern Gaza.
God damn. I mean, that...
He used the final solution words.
Yeah. That is how it's done. So first of all, the first point he makes where he says, how do we cut this election without screaming out, this has to stop? Thank you. That's what I thought that back in January was when I was in New Hampshire covering these events with all these very nice people, and they would go to a Nikki Haley event, and I didn't expect Nikki Haley to say anything about this because she's full bore pro-Israel, just a murderous lunatic. But then even at the Dean Phillips event, and Dean Phillips is, you know, a moderate Zionist, but a Zionist still, as he's, you know, revealed. Nothing about this in his stump speech. It came up in the Q&A, and then I brought it up in a not so nice way. Even Marianne didn't mention this. Didn't mention this at all in her stump speech. Again, it came up in the talkback. And so you go on the campaign trail, and it's like this isn't happening. It's like this isn't happening. And what he's describing in northern Gaza, yes, this is the worst of it in northern Gaza. It's getting worse. They've now basically blockaded the area to the point where very little information is getting out. He has sources. He's a journalist. He has sources who are sending him stuff, and he is reporting that back to us via MSNBC. Number two, calls out MSNBC on MSNBC. That's always the surefire way to not get invited back. When you go on to MSNBC or Fox or whatever and say, hey, people on this network do propaganda for Israel and propaganda for politicians who do propaganda for Israel. Again, the whole Kamala Harris base as if this is not happening. How can you run a campaign on a theme of joy amidst this? It just doesn't compute to anyone whose head is not in their ass. And three, most importantly, sorry, then I'll toss to you, Kamala has tried to pitch the killing of Sinwar as an opportunity to have peace because the idea is, well, you got your guy. He was the mastermind. You got him. And so now you can implement a ceasefire and a peace. What has Netanyahu done? The exact opposite. The attack on northern Gaza is now more brutal than ever before, if that's imaginable to anyone. We saw pictures from a few days ago. Now you're going to see fewer pictures because they have blockaded the area. Press cannot get in now. And so this is just an unspeakable horror. And good on Scahill for just like blowing over whatever the question was and say, first of all, before I answer your question, let's understand here. I know I'm in blue pill world here. Let's understand there is a crime against humanity on a scale we cannot fathom going on as we speak right now. You have to just break it to people as forcefully as that. And so that's how it's done.
Yeah. Whenever you see something like that happen on one of these networks, you're ready for the cane to come out.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Pull them off. Good on him, but you're right. You'll never see him on there again. And you mentioned our friends Caleb and Tusker, to another point that they would often make, going back again to fascism is capitalism in crisis. You notice how all these networks, even under pressure from their lib audience, will never stop inviting back the Trump supporters.
No.
They'll never stop inviting back Trump surrogates.
Nope.
But you have anyone make an argument like that? That's it. That's beyond the pale. That's beyond the pale. Even with all of their lib audience, why are you giving a platform to these people? They'll keep inviting them back. That is the thing that they cannot have on their network. Because you have these Trump surrogates. It doesn't really challenge the basic premises of the system.
Right.
Look at what Trump just said about Netanyahu.
Exactly.
Go, baby, go. Go. You should go harder.
Right.
Okay. So they don't mind having surrogates for that on. You got a guy saying they're shredding babies.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a final solution. That is a very weighty phrase that he certainly picked quite intentionally. That is really going there with Zionists to say final solution.
Exactly. Yes, it is, and it's not an exaggeration. It's a totally appropriate,
of course,
phrase to use there.
Of course it is, but you're not supposed to use it according to them.
Right.
And he went on there knowing he'll never be on there again, and he went for it. Good on him.
That's what you do. You take your shot, 100%.
Yep.
All right, folks, we're going to finish up our super chats here. Then we're going to take a 5-minute break. Then we're going to bring on Kevin Augustine. We will get to all Rumble rants on the Rumble side. So everybody, please join us at dudissidents.com/Rumble. If you go over there, you will access this very live stream at that link. So go to dudissidents.com.
Plug my tour.
/Rumble. Oh, okay. Yeah, here. Go ahead.
Before we go off. All right. So my tour is coming up this weekend. We had a couple of cancellations from people who can't make it for Saturday. So now there are 3 tickets open for Saturday. And what do we have? 8 left for Friday. So it is coming up. It is going to be 7 o'clock Friday the 25th, 7 o'clock Saturday the 26th. We will be going to the site of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire, one of the places G.G. Allen played his last gig. If you know, you know. We will be going to a place some call the Murder House. They say it's the most haunted house in New York. I don't know about that, but I do know it's the site of the Joel Steinberg murder. Again, if you know, you know. And we'll be going to the site of a very famous Weather Underground bombing and a place where MK Ultra experiments were carried out on unsuspecting Greenwich Village residents in the 50s and 60s. So come check it out.
DudeDissidents.com/tour. That's this Saturday. If you want to make it a double header, you can come see Russell and myself at 2 o'clock that day at our Concert for Peace event with Jose Vega and Diane Sayre, fundraiser for their campaign. Great lineup there. Lawrence Wilkerson, Ray McGovern, Scott Ritter, Jimmy Dore, Garland Nixon, Russell, and myself. I believe Matt Ho is going to be there as well. So that is a great event. Tickets are going for that. That's a big venue, but tickets are filling up. So VegasAirPeaceFund.org for those tickets. All right, folks. We're going to
definitely watch the intermission. This is very cool shit.
Yeah, no, it'll be great. DudeDissidents.com/Rumble. Start heading over there. I'm going to read the rest of these super chats. There aren't many, and then we will make the switch, and we'll bring in our guest very shortly. Blash, thanks for the donation. I believe this change is for Palestine protesters. It doesn't seem too coincidental that they're trying this in anticipation of that. Henry DeShazo, thanks for the $5. Holy cow, movie night. Is that like interactive? Can we discuss? Are we going to debate topics? I'm so interested in movie nights. Well, yeah, you'll have call-in access after the movie, of course. Patrons get call-in access to all the patron streams except the interviews. Sarah, thanks for the $10. Freaks by Todd Browning, classic film, of course. Yeah, that's a classic one. That might even be public domain, actually. What is that, from the 20s?
It might be. No, it's not the 20s.
Excuse me.
It's not the 20s. It's sound. I think it's like 32 around there.
Freaks? I don't know, man. But Freaks was early sound.
Well, it's
when
Todd Todd Browning. He was at like the height of his career then. He did Dracula in 31.
32.
So,
Look at that. You're right. 32. I thought it was 28, but there you go. It's 32. How do you like that? Look at that. So that's how you know the movie nights are going to be fun. Only a cinephile would know that. 1932. Henry DeShazzo.
Boom.
Holy cow. I know all the things about all these. Thank you, Henry DeShazzo. Henry also says...
I was shocked how many people wanted Eating Raoul. I took a look at that. I didn't think anyone would even know about that movie.
Henry says, I'm not talented, but I have a friend named Chuck Mayer. He was on True Detective as a cameraman, but he's so much more talented than just that spot. He has a channel called Zombie Go Boom. All right, well, check that out. Zombie Go Boom. Thank you, Henry. Appreciate that very much. Okay, let's knock one or two of these out now. Trump made a post 2 weeks ago praising Israel. A full 1/3 of comments by supporters were critical. More conservatives are waking up. Zionist media spinning for dear
You know
life.
what? I as we were doing that segment, I forgot, man. I interviewed those MAGA for Palestine people. I got to send you that clip. We got to do it on the show.
Yeah, let's do it. SNL original Garrett Morris. Best moment was with guest Dudley Moore and Peter Cook. The British duo audition Prisoners for Gigi. Inmate Morris auditions a song about what he'd do with a shotgun. There you go. All right. All right, folks. We are going to take a game break now. We will get to all of your Rumble rants on the Rumble side. Don't you worry. Richard Canuck got one more super chat in before the buzzer. What percentage of Muslims in Michigan are voting for Stein? Last poll has it 40% for Stein. 18% for Trump, 12% for Kamala. So that's pretty massive. That's pretty massive. Yes, absolutely. Alrighty, folks. That is our YouTube side of the show, but the show is not over, so please don't go anywhere. We got 1,900 filing in over on Rumble. I see the switches in progress. 1,600 on YouTube, 1,900 on Rumble. Let's get everybody over there. DoDissidents.com/Rumble. There's going to be a 5-minute intermission, which features some of the work of Kevin Augustine. So really quick piss break and get back here for the intermission. Don't miss too much of it, all right, if you need one. But we are going to be back here in just a few minutes. DoDissidents.com/Rumble. After a brief 5-minute intermission, we will see you again. In the meantime, be safe and be well.
Courage!
Please clap.